Chapter 224. Senior Brother Yu Qian, this person is not easy to deal with, a Biyun Peak disciple said to the leader. Yu Qian revealed a grave expression and said, "There is no need to worry. The Peak Master already said that as long as we can disrupt this person's core disciple exam, he will give each of us 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones. With this 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones, even if we cannot pass the core disciple exam, it will not matter. It will be enough for us to cultivate. Furthermore, we still have another chance next year. There is no need to worry. If necessary, we can use a method where both sides suffer." When the other person heard this, he purposely glanced at Xiao Chun and said, "That's true. 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones is enough for me to break through to Martial Saint. I will be able to pass the core disciple exam easily next year." The two of them chatted in front of Xiao Chun like there was no one else around. Xiao Chun had a calm expression as he grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly. His state of mind did not waver because of their conversation. "Yi Chun, be careful," Lu Suifeng suddenly said. It turned out that the two people in front were purposely speaking to attract Xiao Chun's attention. The person behind Xiao Chun took advantage of this opportunity to make a move silently. This person smiled coldly in his heart. "Once I get within 3 meters of you, you will have no chance. Go down." Mount Tai suppression. A huge mountain peak appeared behind this person. One could faintly see some faintly discernible birds and beasts circling the mountain peak. Not bad. Using the Mount Tai suppression as a peak martial grandmaster, he was able to materialize such an agile mysterious phenomenon. If it was purely based on mysterious phenomena, he was already as strong as Song Quebec. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up into a faint smile. He was very calm as he evaluated this person's martial technique. His spiritual sense was spread out within a radius of 500 meters. All the actions of the 4 Biyun Peak disciples were under his surveillance. There were no blind spots at all. The mysterious phenomenon was not bad. Unfortunately, a strong martial technique required great strength as a foundation in order to bring out its might. Otherwise, it would just be for show. Kasie. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated quickly. The bones in Xiao Chen's body gave off cracking sounds. He placed the lunar shadow saber back into the universe ring, and clenched his right fist tightly. Xiao Chen felt a boundless energy as he turned around and punched out. The image of a huge tiger appeared behind Xiao Chen. The tiger let out a long roar, instantly raising Xiao Chen's aura to its peak, as if he was the king of all beasts. Bang! With a punch, the mountain shattered. The mysterious phenomenon of the person who sneak attacked Xiao Chen instantly broke, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. His face turned completely pale. His body was like a kite with a broken string, swaying in the air as he fell. Just as he was about to be pierced by a spear, a white figure flew out and grabbed him, landing outside the formation. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art and ferocious tiger, leaving the mountains, allowed Xiao Chen to gather all the strength and essence in his physical body. His physical body strength was 6,000 kilograms of force. The vast essence of an inferior grade martial saint was equivalent to 5,000 kilograms of force. When the two were added together, this punch contained more than 10,000 kilograms of force. With such horrifying force, the so-called Mount Tai suppression was just a joke. A regular inferior grade martial saint would not dare to receive this punch head-on. "Junior Brother Yao, I'll kill you." Splitting the mountains and splitting the earth. Cloud splitting cross-chop. Clouds flipping and breaking the sea. Seeing that their junior brother Yao's sneak attack failed, and that his mysterious phenomenon even broke and he was severely injured, the remaining 3 lost their rationality and charged at Xiao Chen. They executed all sorts of moves, trying to break Xiao Chen's soul. The 3 peak martial grandmasters all executed their best moves. Naturally, their might could not be underestimated. The originally scorching air was now so hot that it made breathing difficult. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. His left hand turned into a dragon and his right hand into a tiger. He crossed his arms and the dragon and tiger merged into his body. A flood dragon and a ferocious tiger circled around him. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated at the same time. In an instant, a faint golden light appeared on the surface of Xiao Chen's body. He looked very calm and imposing. Boundless energy quickly accumulated. There was the might of a tiger and a dragon, but it was not released. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon, not afraid of the mountains and rivers' roar. Bang! The three people's best moves landed on Xiao Chen's body at the same time, giving off loud sounds. However, they were blocked by a formless barrier and could not advance any further. Explode! Xiao Chen shouted, and the energy he accumulated erupted like a volcano. The dragon roared and the tiger roared. The air rippled like water, creating countless ripples. In the face of this unceasing torrent of energy, the remaining three people from Biyun Peak were unable to put up any resistance, and were sent flying. During this period of time, Xiao Chen's dragon and tiger body sculpting art had already reached small perfection, the fourth layer. Thus, he could unleash a portion of this crouching tiger hidden dragon stance. When it reached great perfection, he could unleash all his energy. When he executed the dragon hissing tiger roar fist, its might would be even more horrifying. Mu Heng, who had been resting with his eyes closed like a pine tree in winter, suddenly opened his eyes. A strange light flashed in the depths of his eyes. What a strong physical body! Dragon and tiger body. This cultivation technique for tempering the body should be of the same rank as my cultivation technique. However, his physical body is not as strong as mine. When my purple jade body tempering art circulates at full power, my physical body is comparable to 100-year-old frost iron. My palms can even cut through metal and break jade. However, these are probably not his trump cards. Mu Heng thought about many things in a short while. It seemed like there was another opponent for the first rank of this core disciple exam. When the Tianyue Peak disciples saw everything in front of them, they were all astonished. It was already very difficult for them to stand on the spear's edge. They did not expect Xiao Chen to be able to bring out such a strong combat prowess. Wu Bing, who was beside Zhang Lai, thought for a while and said, "Junior brother Zhang, should we call over some of our senior brothers? We can make the first move and gain the upper hand. With the strength that he has displayed so far, he will be the biggest obstacle to you obtaining the first rank." At this moment, 10 of the stronger Tianyue Peak inner disciples walked over. They were the same as the Biyun Peak disciples. They could move freely on the spear's edge. Their strength was at the peak of the crowd. The person leading them looked at Zhang Lai and said, "Junior brother Zhang, if you have any ideas, you can tell us directly. Before we came, the Peak Master already instructed us that if there were any sudden incidents during the exam, Junior brother Zhang can dispatch us." When Zhang Lai heard this, he felt joy in his heart. He did not expect the Peak Master to trust him so much. However, after muttering to himself for a while, Zhang Lai gave up on this idea. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior brothers are too polite. I will not let down the Peak Master's expectations. I will definitely obtain the first rank in this exam. However, that Yi Chen is not our main enemy. If he is only as strong as he is now, I can easily defeat him. Our biggest opponent is him." Zhang Lai changed the topic and pointed at the low-profile Beichen Peak's Mu Heng. When Mu Heng felt Zhang Lai's gaze, he looked over and smiled indifferently. He did not pay too much attention to him. The people at the side were somewhat surprised. He is just an inferior grade martial grandmaster. Is there a need to pay so much attention to him? Zhang Lai did not explain too much. He said, "The situation might change later. Wait for a while. If I guess wrong, we will make our move immediately." The sudden attack of the 4 Biyun Peak disciples caused the disciples of the other peaks to become more cautious. No one knew who would suddenly make a move behind their backs. A cultivator from Qianduan Peak, carrying a huge saber on his back, stood quietly on the spear tip. The huge saber on his back was close to 2 meters long, 20 centimeters wide, and 30 centimeters thick. It was a huge saber worthy of its name. Just its weight alone was 250 kilograms. Even though he was carrying such a heavy saber, he did not move at all while standing on the spear's edge. He was as light as a feather and did not feel any pressure at all. This caused everyone to be astonished. When someone at the side saw the Tianyue Peak disciples discussing something, he whispered to that person, "Senior brother Gao Yang, there seems to be some movement from Tianyue Peak. Should we do something?" Gao Yang's face was very broad. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He gave off a heroic feeling. He glanced at Zhang Lai and the others from Tianyue Peak and said indifferently, "Let's just wait and see. Fighting on the spear tip does not give our Qianduan Peak disciples any advantage." The same conversation took place in the other peaks as well. Basically, every peak had a disciple they were proud of. They might not be as strong as Zhang Lai and the others, but they were strong enough to suppress the crowd. Everyone was discussing countermeasures to protect themselves in case of any mishaps, to prevent anyone from making a move. Lu Suifeng watched as Xiaochen easily defeated the 4 Biyun Peak disciples charging at him with surging momentum on the spear tip. He could not help but sigh in his heart. Both of them were superior grade martial grand masters, but their strengths were worlds apart. "Yi Chun, are you alright?" Lu Suifeng asked. Xiaochen replied, "I'm fine, I just exhausted some essence." "Be careful, there is still one more person from Biyun Peak who has yet to make a move." After sending the 3 flying, Xiaochen had been paying attention to the remaining Biyun Peak disciples with his spiritual sense. He felt that one of them had a very strong aura, even stronger than Yu Qian's. However, he hid it very well. Originally, Xiaochen wanted to rush forward and drag this person out. However, after thinking about it, there was still Zhang Lai eyeing him covetously from the side. There was no need to expose too much of his strength, so he gave up on the idea. Time went by, second by second. In the blink of an eye, an hour had gone by. Half of the time required for the test had already passed. There were still 80-odd disciples from the various peaks remaining. If there were no accidents, these 80-odd people would not have any problems persisting for another hour. Zhang Lai frowned. He felt that the test would not be so simple. However, an hour had passed, and there was still no movement. This caused him to feel suspicious. "Never mind, I don't care anymore. I will make the first move and gain the advantage." A murderous intent flashed in Zhang Lai's eyes. His gaze was like a torch as he looked at Beichen Peak's Mu Heng. A boundless saber intent materialized in the depths of his eyes. Xiao. A few strands of saber chi appeared in the air. They were like sharp blades, easily tearing through the obstruction of the air. They created shockwaves as they shot towards Mu Heng. Mu Heng had expected Zhang Lai to suddenly make a move. However, he did not expect Zhang Lai's saber intent to be so strong, able to send out saber chi from thin air. Bang! 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 Mu Heng used his palm as a saber and hacked at the saber chi flying at him. There was a metallic clang as the saber chi flying at him was easily shattered by Mu Heng. Chapter 225. Attack! Deal with him first. Zhang Lai had expected that Mu Heng would not be defeated so easily by a few strands of saber chi. This was just the appetizer. Following Zhang Lai's words, 10 Tianyue Peak disciples who still had some strength left stepped on the sharp spear blades and pounced at Beichen Peak's Mu Heng. "I will lure them away. You all do not have to make a move," Mu Heng said to the Beichen Peak disciples behind him who wanted to help. Mu Heng stomped heavily on the spear blade under his feet. Under the force of gravity, the spear blade actually distorted. Then it shot out of the ground with a xiao sound. Mu Heng, who had already used the rebound force of the spear blade to jump into the air, caught the spear blade. He smiled faintly as he looked at the group of people rushing at him. Then he threw the spear blade forward. Bang! The spear blade that was flying in the air suddenly shattered, turning into countless tiny pieces of metal. As it spun at high speed, it created a gust of wind, turning into a sharp killing weapon. Cloud Gathering Peak. Zhang Lai shouted and executed the first move of the Lingyun saber technique, Cloud Gathering Peak. Suddenly, clouds appeared above the formation. A strange peak rose up and blocked all the metal pieces flying at it. Dang! 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 Countless sounds rang out. When the clouds scattered, the crowd discovered that this strange peak was the saber in Zhang Lai's hand. The momentum of the saber was very ferocious, instantly knocking down all the metal pieces. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mu Heng leaped more than 100 meters away. He casually waved his hand and pulled out another spear. Then he chopped it in half with his palm and tossed it out with a so sound. The two halves of the spear spun rapidly in the air like a flaming wheel. It continuously attracted the surrounding air, forming a 3-meter-long tornado. Zhang Lai said, "Help me block this move. I will chase after him." So, So, four inner disciples jumped out from behind Zhang Lai, 2 to the left and 2 to the right. They drew their sabers at the same time, and a 10-meter-long saber light soared up and struck the tornado. Zhang Lai did not care about the result of this attack. He did not stop and dodge the gap between the tornadoes, quickly flying towards Mu Heng. Seeing Zhang Lai chasing after him alone, Mu Heng revealed a smile. He pushed off the spear tip and there was an explosion. The spear blade immediately shattered into countless pieces and flew backwards. Bang! Every time Mu Heng took a step, one of the spear blades under his feet would shatter, turning into countless small pieces of metal. As they moved at high speed, they tore through the air and shot towards Zhang Lai like a torrential storm. With a glance, Zhang Lai saw countless lethal pieces of metal covering the sky. If he wanted to continue chasing, he would have to break through the storm formed by these countless pieces of metal. If I do that, I will have to exhaust a lot of essence. I feel like I fell into Mu Heng's trap, Zhang Lai thought to himself. However, he might not know that I cultivate a superior grade earth-ranked cultivation technique. The amount of essence I can store is definitely more than his. Thinking of this, Zhang Lai's face revealed a trace of mockery as he lightly shouted, "Sweeping mountain destroys clouds." This was the second move of the Lingyun saber technique. A mysterious phenomenon appeared. A mountain peak appeared out of nowhere. To everyone's astonished gazes, that mountain peak actually started to spin continuously. Rumble. As the mountain spun, the ground of the entire drill ground began to shake. Some unlucky inner disciples fell off the spear's edge on the spot. When Xiao Chen saw Zhang Lai execute 2 moves of the Lingyun saber technique, he was astonished. He did not expect Zhang Lai's talent to be so high. However, being able to produce a mysterious phenomenon does not mean that his comprehension of the Lingyun saber technique is deeper than mine, Xiao Chen thought to himself. The mysterious phenomenon was a kind of supplement to the martial technique. However, before the mysterious phenomenon was completed, if one used it rashly and it was broken, one's essence would be greatly injured. Back then, when Xiao Chen fought against Chu Chaoyan, he suffered greatly. Chu Chaoyan only used half a move to break his moon bright like fire mysterious phenomenon. Xiao Chen's essence was greatly injured and he no longer had the ability to continue fighting. Thus, in future battles, Xiao Chen was very cautious when he used the mysterious phenomenon. There were only 2 ways to break the mysterious phenomenon. The first was to find the flaw in the mysterious phenomenon like what Chu Chaoyan did. The second was to break the mysterious phenomenon with brute force, using absolute strength to shatter the opponent's mysterious phenomenon, like what happened to Xiao Chen earlier. It was unknown what method Mu Heng would choose. The spinning mountain peak was a few hundred meters tall, and had an unknown width. It stirred up the wind and clouds, causing the sky to darken, and the ground to darken. It even covered the blazing sun. The raindrop-like pieces of metal struck the mountain peak with a ding-dang-dang sound. However, they did not have any effect as they all fell to the ground. Mu Heng turned around to take a look. There was no astonishment on his face. He stared at the image of the mountain peak. In his eyes, there was only this mountain peak left. The mountain peak got closer and closer, but Mu Heng still did not have any expression on his face. It was as though he did not know that when this mountain peak got close to him, it would easily crush him to death. I still can't find it. It is too difficult to find the flaw in the mysterious phenomenon, Mu Heng sighed and shook his head. Although the mysterious phenomenon that Zhang Lai executed was not perfect, it was not easy to find the flaw in it. Since I can't find it, then I'll shatter it. Mu Heng shouted and his body soared into the air. A purple glow appeared on his skin, like a jade-like glazed jade. Break for me. A palm strike without any fancy moves landed on the mountain peak. There was a loud bang, and the spinning mountain peak finally stopped. The instant the mountain peak clashed with the palm strike, it created a surging shockwave. Ripples appeared in the air and spread wildly in all directions, like the surging waves of the sea. The shockwave did not differentiate between friend and foe. If they were struck by it, at least half of them would fall off the spear tip. The pillars of the various peaks could not protect themselves at this moment. They all made a move. Bang, 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 bang. There was an unending string of explosions on the drill grounds. When the crowd in the spectator stand saw this scene, they were all astonished. This exam was more intense and ferocious than any of the previous ones. Uchi. Xiao Chen swung his saber and chopped the surging shockwave in half, easily resolving the crisis. He continued to stare at the two people in the air. The image of the mountain peak in the air had already disappeared. Zhang Lai held his saber and blocked Mu Heng's seemingly ordinary strike. However, the force behind this seemingly ordinary palm strike was actually slightly stronger than Zhang Lai's. The mysterious phenomenon did not break. However, he managed to block it. This forced Zhang Lai to not dare to continue creating mysterious phenomena, Xiao Chen muttered. The two of them were not using their full strength in this exchange. After all, it was not the final showdown yet. They were just testing each other out. Of course, if there was an opportunity to knock the other down, they would be happy to do so. Zhang Lai held his saber and retreated a few steps. He jumped a few steps on the spear tip before he slowly stabilized himself. He landed not far from the Qianduan Peak disciple. Seeing Mu Heng land steadily, Zhang Lai was mildly astonished. He was actually at a disadvantage when he tested the waters earlier. Although he only used 30% of his strength, it was hard to guarantee that Mu Heng would not hold back. Mu Heng's attacks were not fancy at all. He did not even use any martial techniques. After a few moves, they were all straightforward attacks, relying purely on the strength of his physical body. Do you want to continue fighting? I am willing to accompany you at any time. Mu Heng looked at Zhang Lai and spoke for the first time. Continuing to fight head-on was definitely not a wise decision. This was not the final stage of the arena battle. If both sides were injured, it would only benefit the others. Zhang Heng also considered the crux of the matter. Pusi. Before Zhang Lai could speak, the Qianduan Peak disciple, Gao Yang, who was carrying a huge saber on his back, drew the huge saber from his back with his right hand. He left an afterimage in the air as he attacked Zhang Lai. There was a loud explosion in the air. This person's speed was actually close to the speed of sound. He crossed a distance of 100 meters in a breath of time. The huge and heavy saber directly chopped at Zhang Lai. Gao Yang had not expected this at all. Earlier, he had not revealed any killing chi. By the time Zhang Lai felt the killing intent and heard the sonic boom, the huge saber was only half a centimeter away from the back of his head. Zhang Lai, who had comprehended saber intent, was much more sensitive than regular cultivators. At this critical moment, he pushed off the tip of the spear with his feet. The spear sank into the ground with a hua-hua sound. Zhang Lai's body also fell. His flying long hair was chopped in the middle, floating in the air. He had narrowly avoided this saber strike. Gao Yang immediately withdrew his saber and retreated, returning to the group of Qianduan Peak disciples. His expression was calm. There were no fluctuations. How dare you sneak attack me? Zhang Lai turned around and shouted angrily at Gao Yang. Junior brother Zhang, are you all right? Wu Bing asked anxiously as he led the other 10 Tianyue Peak disciples over. Zhang Lai landed on another spear and tied up his hair again. He revealed a murderous intent as he looked at Gao Yang and said indifferently, I'm fine. However, I'm afraid some people will be in trouble. Gao Yang did not show any fear or panic. He revealed a crafty smile on his heroic face as he pointed at Xiao Chen and Mu Heng. He said, Your opponent is not me, it is him and him. If you do not want to reveal all your trump cards before the arena battle, you can fight me. Although Gao Yang seemed to have a heroic background, he had a sharp mind. He could see through the stakes before him very clearly. Zhang Lai snorted coldly. Trump cards? Are you even worthy of revealing my trump cards? Xiao. A few strands of saber chi appeared silently in the air. They tore through the air and created shockwaves as they flew towards Gao Yang's face. Dang! Dang! The huge saber spun very quickly, blocking in front of Gao Yang like a door. It blocked all the incoming saber chi. However, he was somewhat familiar with the strength of these saber chi. When the saber chi struck the body of the saber, it trembled continuously. Gao Yang felt his arm go numb, and the saber nearly fell off. He quickly held the saber with both hands. When Zhang Lai saw the situation, he laughed coldly. With just this bit of strength, you dare to reveal my trump cards. You overestimate yourself. Chapter 226. In the distance, Lu Suifeng saw the sudden situation. He said suspiciously, Why are the two of them fighting? I know that Gao Yang. This is the third time he is participating in the core disciple exam. He is very strong, but he should not be a match for Zhang Lai. Xiaochen smiled and said, this person is very scheming. Earlier he seemed to be acting weak on purpose. There is no reason for him to block those strands of saber qi so forcefully. What is the logic behind this? Is he not afraid that Zhang Lai will really kill him? Lu Suifeng said suspiciously. Xiao Chun withdrew the smile on his face and said seriously, this is where his brilliance lies. He should have some trump card that can kill him in one move. Maybe he had already planned this from the moment Zhang Lai landed in front of him. Just as Xiao Chun spoke, the originally clear sky suddenly turned gloomy. A strong wind blew, kicking up the yellow sand on the ground, and causing dust to fly everywhere. Zhang Lai, who was originally preparing to attack Gao Yang, turned serious. An essence barrier appeared in front of him, blocking the sand outside. He said suspiciously, what's going on? Why is there such a strong wind? Is the weather changing? Gao Yang looked at the sudden strong wind. Zhang Lai had stopped attacking because of it. He could not help but feel disappointed in his heart. What a pity. When the strong wind dissipated, a black flag appeared before everyone's eyes. It flew over from the horizon, and soon arrived at the drill ground. The banner had a black background and white words. It was lined with yellow gold. There were two large words written on it, Heavenly Saber. There were simple and unadorned patterns, and a spiraling golden dragon carved on the black pole. The speed of the banner was very slow. However, the force it carried was very shocking. Everywhere it passed, the air was like a curtain of water, gently rippling. An inner disciple did not understand what was going on. In the end, the flag touched him, and he was immediately knocked back. He vomited a large mouthful of blood. A Jade Maiden Peak Elder immediately caught him. He had completely lost the right to participate in the exam. Scatter. Everyone was startled and quickly scattered. When they saw the black flag, they quickly made way for it. Soon, the flag flew to a spot not far from Xiaochen. At this moment, the chief examiner on the ground suddenly said, only by obtaining the black flag can you be considered to have passed the test. Whoever obtains the flag can immediately end the test. Right after Xiaochen spoke, the banner that everyone had been avoiding earlier immediately became a hot commodity. Everyone made a move, using all sorts of methods to snatch it. Lu Suifeng, who was behind Xiaochen, also wanted to make a move. This was because the flag was the closest to Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng. If they made a move, they would have a high chance of obtaining the flag. Don't make a move yet. Xiaochen hurriedly stopped him. Lu Suifeng asked confusedly, why? After you get it, jump down immediately, and you can end the assessment. There shouldn't be any problems, right? Xiaochen pointed and said, take a look. Have any of the truly powerful people from the various sects moved? When Lu Suifeng heard this, it was indeed as Xiaochen had said. Mu Heng, Zhang Lai, Gao Yang, and the others did not move. It was as though this matter had nothing to do with them. I got it. A Gongyu Peak disciple said excitedly as he grabbed the flagpole. Boom! Just as he was about to jump down from the formation, all sorts of saber techniques and fist winds flew at him. All sorts of attacks came like a landslide airtight. Aside from the Gongyu Peak disciples who did not make a move, the disciples of the other peaks all executed their best moves. With so many attacks, even an inferior grade martial saint would not be able to block it. How could a martial grand master block it? Before that disciple could land on the ground, he was already severely injured. His entire body was covered in wounds, and he was dripping with blood. The black banner flew out of his hand and returned to the air. Lu Suifeng watched from the side with fear in his heart. Fortunately, Xiaochen made a move to stop him. Otherwise, the one lying on the ground would be him. How pitiful. This person will need to rest for at least 3 months before he can recover. This is too cruel. He did not hold back when he attacked. What exactly is going on with this core disciple exam? When the inner disciples in the spectator stands saw such a miserable scene, their hearts were filled with astonishment. In the past core disciple exams, they were also very intense. However, this time's exam was simply miserable and incomparably cruel. The exam could only end after one obtained the flag. With so many people present, there would definitely be more than one flag. Thus, there was no need to rush. Whoever obtained the first flag would definitely be attacked by the crowd. This was the principle of the shot hitting the bird that sticks out. In the earlier situation, even if it was Xiao Chun himself, he would not be able to escape unscathed. Xiao Chun extended out his spiritual sense and followed the direction the flag came from. He extended it continuously until he found the owner of the flag on a tall tower about 1,000 meters away from the drill grounds. A black-clothed man faced the blazing sun at the top of the tall tower. There were 5 flags on his back fluttering in the wind. The sunlight blurred this person's appearance. His chi and blood were flourishing, rushing to the sky. Together with the flags beside him, his aura was overwhelming. He had the might of 1,000 horses and 1,000 soldiers, as though he could trample through the sky. The distance of close to 2,000 meters was already the limit of Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. Thus, Xiao Chen could not see the full appearance of this person. He could only see a rough silhouette. This person is at least a peak martial king. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion is indeed filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There are peak experts everywhere. Xiao Chen sighed in his heart. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense detected 5 black flags around that person. The flags were spinning continuously, and there was a rotating air current in front of each flag. So, in the next moment, the 5 flags pierced through the obstruction of space and headed for the formation in the drill grounds. At first, they were as fast as lightning. However, when they got closer, they slowed down. When they slowed down, that was only relative to a high-ranked cultivator. In the eyes of ordinary people and low-ranked cultivators, they were several times faster than a horse carriage. Xiao. This time, the stronger inner disciples on the spear tips did not hold back. Essence surged around them and they all shot out, leaving behind afterimages in the air. When Lu Suifeng saw that Xiao Chen did not move, he said, "Yi Chen, are you still not going to make a move? There should be a limit to the number of flags. After shooting out one batch, there will be one less batch." Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Go and snatch them. It is not time for me yet." So. Another 10 flags shot out from the air. A strong wind blew on the formation and dust flew everywhere. This time, the crowd was in an uproar. Even those who wanted to hold back made a move at the same time. Yellow sand filled the air above the formation, and a strong wind blew. Figures flashed in the air, chasing after the flags in the air. The battle was incomparably intense. Occasionally, there would be people who were caught in the dark and lost the right to take the test. However, even in such a situation, there were still a few people who did not make a move. They stood quietly on the spear tips, not anxious at all. It was as though they had already forgotten the requirements of the test. Aside from Xiao Chun, Zhang Lai, Mu Heng, and Gao Yang, there was one person from each of the other 3 peaks who had not made a move. These 7 people represented one peak. In reality, they were the strongest 7 people in this test. I finally got it. A Tianyue Peak disciple hugged a black flag and landed on the ground. He did not care about the bloody wounds on his body. He revealed a joyful smile on his face. Immediately, a Jade Maiden Peak elder came over and checked his wounds. The chief examiner nodded and noted down his number. Finally, someone succeeded in the second stage of the test. So. The intense battle continued. There was an endless stream of people jumping off the formation, successfully passing the test. However, there were even more people who were covered in wounds. They fell down empty-handed, failing the test. Lu Suifeng grabbed a black flag and immediately revealed an excited smile. He executed his movement technique with all his might, doing his best to avoid the attacks around him. He was just one step away from dodging the attacks of these people. A few figures chased after him. At this moment, Lu Suifeng had already used up all his strength. There was no way for him to move around in the air. The situation was dire. Purple thunder, true fire, shoot. A boundless flame started burning in Xiao Chen's right eye. The flames were like arrows, shooting towards the few people in the air. The speed of the flames was very fast. These people did not have the time to dodge in the air and were struck. They cried out miserably and fell to the ground. Lu Suifeng took advantage of this opportunity to land quickly. Something is strange. These flames are not ordinary. However, now that it is exposed, it will be easier to deal with. The other 7 people who remained on the formation muttered to themselves. When Xiao Chen's spiritual sense felt Lu Suifeng land safely, he relaxed completely. Although he had exposed one of his trump cards, it was worth it. When the strong wind scattered, the 15 black flags were finally snatched away. The people of Tianyue Peak were indeed strong. Out of the 15 flags, they managed to snatch half of them. When the remaining people saw the 7 people who did not make a move, they knew that the atmosphere was not right. They all tacitly jumped down and gave up on the core disciple exam. The place was extremely quiet. No one would have imagined that just a minute ago, this place was in chaos. Only the yellow sand below the formation was dyed red with blood, silently telling the story of the tragic battle earlier. The gazes of the inner disciples in the spectator stands, the inner disciples who did not pass the core disciple exam, the various peak masters and main hall elders were all focused on these 7 people. The first place of this core disciple exam will definitely be given to one of these 7 people. This exam is really extraordinarily intense. This is only the second stage, and more than 200 people have been eliminated. There are actually only 20-odd disciples left. If there were 50 spots like before, these people would have all passed. There will definitely not be 50 spots. With one look, it is clear that this exam is not simple. I think there will only be 10 spots at most. I wonder how many flags will fly over in this round. If there are not 7 flags, how many of these 7 strongest people will be eliminated? The ordinary inner disciples in the spectator stands all had complicated expressions as they looked at the 7 people on the platform. Due to various reasons, they had no chance of becoming a core disciple. However, when they saw this inner disciple exam, they felt lucky in their hearts. The blood below the spear formation was not for nothing. It was left behind by the inner disciples who participated in this exam. There were a few people who nearly died. Aside from those who gave up on their own accord, almost no one came out unscathed. Chapter 227. Although the identity of a core disciple was very tempting, such an intense battle caused fear in everyone. Wuxia. Suddenly, another strong gust of wind blew. 5 black banners flew towards the spear formation from afar, kicking up a cloud of yellow sand. When they felt the number of flags flying towards them, the 7 of them could not help but feel nervous. There were only 5 flags. That meant that 2 of them would have to leave. Gao Yang's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. He was already 19 years old. If he did not succeed this time, he would lose all hope of becoming a core disciple. He could not afford to lose. It was not that he did not want to fight for the first 15 flags. However, he knew that if he made a move early, he would definitely suffer a fierce retaliation. Even if he obtained the flag, he would expose his trump card. It would be very disadvantageous for him in the arena battles. So, the remaining female disciple of Jade Maiden Peak, Wang Mei, made the first move. Her petite body left a white shadow in the air. She instantly grabbed a flag and dropped it. Senior Sister Wang, sorry for the offense. The remaining inner disciple of Gongyu Peak, Zhao Heng, said to Wang Mei. Then he immediately flew forward and grabbed the other side of the flag. The 2 of them did not waste any words. They each grabbed one end of the flag and started fighting in the air. Xiao Chen did not look at the 2 of them, nor did he look at the flags in the air. His figure flashed and he rushed towards the last Biyun Peak disciple, Lu Jun, rising peak and surging clouds. Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber with a huangdang sound. The snow-white blade contained the state of the Lingyun saber technique. It was like a lone peak piercing through the clouds, pointing angrily at the sky. Although this saber did not give off any mysterious phenomenon, its might was not much weaker than the one Zhonglai executed. In fact, in terms of pure strength, it was even stronger. There was only a slight difference in aura. Mountain-splitting stone. Out of Xiao Chen's expectations, Lu Jun did not choose to dodge Xiao Chen's powerful saber strike. Instead, he chose to clash head-on. Bang! When the sabers clashed, 2 resplendent saber lights exploded in the air. Even the air trembled in the direction where the weapons clashed. A huge force passed through the saber, and was transmitted to the two of them. The two of them each took a step back and switched to another spear tip to stabilize themselves. They were evenly matched. Actually, Xiaochen was at a slight disadvantage in this saber strike. The grade of rising peaks and surging rocks was higher than that of splitting mountains and splitting rocks. However, it was only a draw. A proud smile appeared on Lu Jun's face. You didn't expect this, did you? I cultivate the pure yang cultivation technique, a peak earth-ranked cultivation technique. In terms of the thickness and quality of my essence, no one in the same cultivation realm can surpass me. I will defeat you fair and square. Die 3 flowing cloud shadows. Lu Jun's body trembled and 3 figures appeared in front of Xiaochen. Each of the 3 figures sent out a saber strike. The saber lights linked together and surged toward Xiaochen like a gushing river. Xiaochen smiled faintly. You managed to comprehend something of your own in the 3 flowing cloud shadows. Furthermore, you are able to link them perfectly. You do have the capital to be proud. Rolling peaks destroying clouds. The image of a mountain flashed on Xiaochen's body and entered his body. Instantly, Xiaochen's aura changed. He was like a mountain rising from the ground, rushing towards the sky. Xiaochen spun around and the lunar shadow saber in his hand moved from top to bottom in the air. It created an intense shockwave and sucked in the 3 figures that Lu Jun created. Pussy. When Xiaochen's body stopped spinning, a horrifying wound appeared on Lu Jun's chest. Blood spurted out continuously. Lu Jun looked at the wound on his chest in disbelief. He pointed at Xiaochen and said in pain, "You." Bang! Xiaochen lashed out with a whip kick, creating an intense wind as he mercilessly kicked him out. Unfortunately, sometimes, the amount of essence does not mean everything. Zhang Lai, who was not far away, was like a wooden man. When he saw all this, it was like thunder exploded in his mind. The Lingyun saber technique can actually be used like this. My Lingyun saber technique uses the mysterious phenomenon to complement my martial technique. However, his mysterious phenomenon is reserved and not released, focusing on the inner strength of his body. One is internal and one is external. In the end, they are different paths that lead to the same goal. There is no difference in who is stronger or weaker. The key is still one's comprehension. Zhang Lai thought about many things. However, I have comprehended saber intent. The moves that I executed earlier did not contain saber intent. When I infuse saber intent into my body, its might will definitely be stronger than his. After dealing with the final Biyun Peak inner disciple, Xiaochen waved his hand, wanting to pull over the black flag that passed by him. Chi. However, before Xiaochen could grab the black flag, a few strands of strong saber chi appeared out of nowhere and chopped the black flag into 5 pieces, completely destroying it. Xiaochen's face sank. He looked at Zhang Lai, who was 200 meters away. He did not expect his opponent to be so decisive. He actually destroyed one of the 5 flags. Zhang Lai felt Xiaochen's gaze and smiled confidently. I will deal with you in this stage. Let's see whose Lingyun saber technique is stronger. Zhang Lai actually destroyed one of the flags. What is he trying to do? This fellow is too confident. There are 7 people and 5 flags. It is not enough in the first place, and he actually destroyed one. Many of the inner disciples in the spectator stands could not understand Zhang Lai's actions. This was not the finals yet. There was no need to force himself into a dead end. Bang! Just as everyone's attention was focused on Xiaochen and Zhang Lai, Gao Yang, who had been silent all this while, suddenly made his move. A piercing light suddenly appeared on his 2-meter-long saber. Berserk Dragon Burst. With a roar, the soles of his feet began to explode continuously. With each explosion, his speed would increase by a fraction. After 5 explosions, his speed had already reached an unimaginable level. Furthermore, the target that he wanted to attack was somewhat surprising. It was actually Wang Mei and Zhao Heng, who were fighting intensely. The two of them were at the crucial moment of their fight and could not get away. I want this flag. Gao Yang laughed loudly and swept his huge saber. A vast energy knocked Wang Mei and Zhao Heng back without any mercy. The two of them vomited a mouthful of blood in the air and fell to the ground. They looked at Gao Yang with extreme dissatisfaction and cursed. Gao Yang, you are too shameless. So, Gao Yang grabbed the black flag and ignored the curses of the two. He revealed an excited expression. Everyone, I will make a move first. You all take your time and have fun. Gao Yang leaped a few times on the spear tip. The effect of the berserk dragon burst had not worn off yet. In the instant a few explosions occurred, he had already moved several hundred meters. He was just one step away from landing. Just at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. That person revealed a faint smile as he blocked his path and looked at him silently. Mu Heng, what are you trying to do? There are still 3 more flags, one for each of you. Why are you blocking me? Gao Yang's expression changed as he spoke in a sullen voice. Mu Heng did not waste any words and directly said, Put down the flag and you can scram. Dream on. Gao Yang roared ferociously, and there was another explosion under his feet. His speed was so fast that no afterimages could be seen. He was already very close to the speed of sound. Mu Heng's expression did not change. His entire body glowed with a purple light. His skin looked like it was made of jadeite, as though it was transparent. Suddenly, Gao Yang appeared behind Mu Heng. His huge saber carried a tremendous force as he hacked at the unresponsive Mu Heng. When everyone saw this scene, their hearts leaped into their throats. The martial techniques of Qianduan Peak were famous for their berserk nature. In terms of strength, they were undoubtedly the strongest among the 7 peak techniques. If this saber strike landed, even if one was not chopped in half, they would be severely injured and unable to get out of bed for half a year. To any cultivator, wasting half a year was something that they could not bear. Dang! There was a sound of metal clashing. The purple light on Mu Heng's back trembled. His body received this saber strike without any damage at all. Gao Yang was stunned. Gao Yang was stunned. Mu Heng turned around at lightning speed and raised his right hand, catching the huge saber that Gao Yang wanted to retreat with. No matter how strong Gao Yang was, he was unable to break through Mu Heng's right hand. The maximum speed of the berserk dragon burst is indeed shocking. Unfortunately, you are unable to break through my defense. Everything is for naught. Mu Heng said indifferently as he looked at Gao Yang, who was dripping with sweat. I fell for his trap. If I had attacked him continuously from the start, with my speed, he would not be able to catch up to me. I might even be able to break through his defense before the berserk dragon burst ends. Sometimes, a moment of hesitation would result in a completely different outcome. How hateful! Gao Yang said angrily. He released his hand and abandoned his huge saber. While he still had essence, he could support a few more berserk dragon bursts and quickly retreated. Kasie. Mu Heng broke Gao Yang's 2-meter-long and 3-centimeter-thick saber gently. The huge saber was like a fragile blade. It shattered into countless pieces of metal and fell to the ground with a ding-dang-dang sound. Seeing Gao Yang's figure getting further away, Mu Heng smiled faintly. His body disappeared from the air and appeared in front of Gao Yang in the next instant. He said indifferently, Game over. Mu Heng's right palm glowing with a purple light struck Gao Yang's chest in a ghostly manner. This palm strike did not look fancy, but it contained a horrifying physical strength. It was no weaker than Xiao Chen's full-powered strike. Kasie. Kasie. The sound of bones breaking came from Gao Yang's chest. He vomited a large mouthful of blood. Gao Yang's face scrunched up in pain. He pointed at Mu Heng angrily and said, You lied to me. Bang. Mu Heng kicked Gao Yang's shoulder and used this force to return to the formation. He held the banner in his hand and looked at Gao Yang on the ground. He smiled faintly and said, That's right, I was indeed playing with you. Gao Yang had been smart for a long time. He had calculated everything. Not only did he lose his chance, but he was also played by someone. He was so angry that he trembled. He could not catch his breath and fainted. What Mu Heng used earlier should be the Beichen Peak's secret technique, 7-star transposition. It can achieve the effect of teleportation for a short distance. This Gao Yang is in a bad mood. He sneak attacked others a few times. In the end, he was played like a fool. He deserves it. You can't say that. The competition this time is too cruel. There is nothing wrong with using some tricks. He is just not as skilled as others. Chapter 228. However, what's going on with Mu Heng? Why did he jump up after obtaining the banner? The people in the spectator stands did not have much sympathy for Gao Yang. After all, his actions were not good. Shua. Shua. Just as everyone was discussing the earlier matter, Mu Heng did something shocking. He broke the banner in his hand as well. Xiao, Zhang Lai and Xiao Chen made a move at the same time. Each of them broke a banner. Of the remaining 5, only one banner remained, floating in the air between the 3 of them. What are they trying to do? If the 3 of them obtain the banner, they could have ended the test. Why do I have a feeling that they are trying to bring forward the decisive battle? I really do not understand this test. It is only the second stage, and it is already so intense. What is going on? Now the 3 of them have been forced into a corner. Only one of them can obtain the banner. The remaining 2 will be eliminated. Not only did the people on the ground not understand the situation, but the other inner disciples in the spectator stands and the peak masters of the various peaks also did not understand why the decisive battle was brought forward. On the highest seat of the elders in the drill grounds, the second elder beside the first elder, Jiang Qi, smiled gently and said, "These 3 people seem to understand our intentions. I wonder who the first elder thinks more highly of." With the strength of these 3, they could easily get into the top 10 in any of the past core disciple exams. They are all very strong. It does not matter who wins or loses. Jiang Qi's deep gaze was like a pool of clear water. No one could guess what he was thinking. The third elder beside him said, "Big brother Jiang Qi, if the peak masters knew about what we did, would they have any objections?" The first elder said expressionlessly, "No one is allowed to object to the things that I have decided." When the other elders heard this, their hearts tightened. They all shut their mouths and stopped discussing this issue. On the formation made up of countless spear blades, Xiao Chun, Mu Heng, and Zhang Lai each stood in a corner. Their auras gathered continuously. The qi and blood of the 3 of them were very vigorous. As their auras gathered, the air in the drill grounds became somewhat viscous, making it difficult to breathe. Between the 3 of them, the force attached to the slowly fluttering flag finally disappeared, and it slowly descended to the ground. Their gazes never left the flag, and a strange light flashed in each of their eyes. Whoosh! In the next moment, 3 strong gusts of wind appeared in the air, blowing away the sticky air and swirling up countless yellow sand. The 3 of them moved at the same time, each using their own movement techniques to grab the falling banners. 7-star transposition, traceless water treading, blue dragon tail whip. Mu Heng's figure strangely disappeared from the air. Zhang Lai gently pushed off the ground, and there were ripples on the ground, leaving behind afterimages. A blue dragon flowed out of Xiao Chen's body. With a light shout, he streaked across the sky. The 3 of them executed their best moves and flew towards the descending black banner. In the end, Xiao Chen's blue dragon cloud soaring art was better. A green light descended and grabbed the banner. A heaven-ranked movement technique was indeed a heaven-ranked movement technique. Even though he had only practiced it to small perfection, there were not many cultivators of the same cultivation realm who could surpass Xiao Chun in terms of movement techniques. Almost at the same time, when Xiao Chun grabbed the end of the banner, Zhang Lai and Mu Heng had already descended. They stretched their hands out to grab the banner. Xiao Chun pulled gently, and the banner streaked through the air and landed behind Xiao Chun. The 2 of them grabbed nothing but air. 100 transformations peak. 1,000 mountains, 10,000 shadows palm. Zhang Lai and Mu Heng did not hesitate, and made their moves at the same time. Each of them executed the 3rd move of the Lingyun saber technique, instantly turning into hundreds of layers of mysterious mountains, covering the sky and turning it dark. On the other side, Mu Heng circulated the purple jade body tempering art. Hundreds of purple shadows flashed around him, making it hard to distinguish which was real and which was fake. There was no way to make a move. Xiao Chen revealed a grave expression. These 2 were not ordinary superior grade martial grandmasters. One had comprehended saber intent, and his talent was exceptional. The other had tempered his physical body and turned it into a saber. His pure offensive power was not inferior to Xiao Chen's. No matter where he was, he would be a demonic genius. 100 transformations peak. I think I know it as well. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and smiled faintly. Hundreds of illusions of mountains appeared behind him as well. However, these illusions disappeared in a flash and instantly entered his body. The snow-white lunar shadow saber suddenly lit up with a resplendent glow. This was not a saber light. It was the pure mysterious phenomenon of the Lingyun saber technique infused into the saber. The essence in Xiao Chen's body also infused into the saber. The glow became even more dazzling. It was like a miniature sun. The dark sky immediately became incredibly bright. "Break for me!" Xiao Chen shouted and hacked ferociously at the endless mountain range. Rumble, rumble. A series of earth-shattering sounds resounded continuously. The mountain range trembled, and the entire drill ground started to tremble. The air current started to compress continuously. Some of the spear blades on the ground could not withstand the pressure, and were pulled out of the ground, flying into the air. Bang! The mountain range disappeared and Zhang Lai appeared in the air with a pale complexion. He slowly descended. The sunlight from the sky shone down once again, illuminating this space with a fiery heat. Uchi. Xiao Chen's movements did not stop. After he knocked back Zhang Lai, he quickly turned around and transferred the lunar shadow saber to his left hand. He circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art, and the bones in his body started to crackle continuously. The muscles on Xiao Chen's body visibly increased in size. A huge tiger image appeared behind Xiao Chen. The tiger roared continuously, causing Xiao Chen's aura to rise to another level. Ferocious tiger coming out of the mountains, 100 beasts charging. When the hundreds of figures around Mu Heng got close to Xiao Chen, they merged together. Their aura also rose to the peak. They did not give way to Xiao Chen's aura, which was like the king of all beasts. "Explode for me!" Mu Heng roared angrily. His purple jade-like right palm carried the power of the hundreds of figures as it clashed with Xiao Chen's fist without hesitation. Boom! When the fist and palm collided, it was like a thunderclap resounded in the silent drill grounds. It reverberated in everyone's ears, causing their eardrums to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators even temporarily went deaf. A shockwave surged out in all directions like a surging wave. Those spear blades flying in the air were directly crushed into powder and scattered by the wind. The two of them were knocked back, and in an instant, they retreated a few hundred meters. Xiao Chen's body spun once in the air, and gently landed on the edge of a spear. After that, he slowly grabbed the black banner that he had been protecting behind him. Mu Heng was not as calm. Every time he retreated, he would shatter a spear blade. He broke 100 spear blades before he stopped. One palm and one fist. The two of them relied on the strength of their physical bodies. They were basically evenly matched. Although all of this took a long time to describe, it was actually just one exchange of moves between Xiao Chen and the two of them. Everything took only a few breaths of time. The three of them each stood in a corner, and started to recuperate their auras. They were not in a rush to make a move. The surging formation immediately calmed down. However, everyone knew that this was just the calm before the storm. Indeed, after a while, Zhang Lai and Mu Heng both shouted and charged at Xiao Chen. Now the two of them knew that they were no longer a match for Xiao Chen by themselves. They could only work together to take him down. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up into a gentle smile. Suddenly, he let out a long roar. A lofty feeling rose in his heart. Since he left the Xiao clan, he had not fought to his heart's content. All the opponents he met were either too strong or too weak. Coincidentally, he met two opponents who were evenly matched today. Then he might as well fight to his heart's content. After blocking Zhang Lai's attack with his saber, Xiao Chen clenched his left fist and clashed with Mu Heng's palm wind. On the formation, the three of them were on the spear tips, moving up and down continuously. The sounds of saber wind, punches, claps, tiger roars, and all sorts of other sounds came out continuously. After a while, the three of them exchanged more than 100 moves on the formation. Everywhere they passed, the spear tips under their feet all shattered. A strong wind blew and yellow sand filled the air. Soon, Xiao Chen managed to last more than 500 moves under the barrage of attacks from the two. He did not show any signs of being at a disadvantage. Instead, he became more ferocious from a distance and his aura soared. The crowd in the spectator stands could only see the blurry figures of the three through the yellow sand, and the sounds of weapons, fists and kicks clashing. It was such an exciting battle. Yet they had to watch it through a layer of yellow sand. They felt an unbearable itch in their hearts. It was a pity. This Xiao Chun is really strong. Under the attacks of the two of them, he did not show any signs of being at a disadvantage. Qingyun Peak's Xiao Chun truly lives up to his reputation. Zhang Lai and Mu Heng are not bad either. A regular inferior grade martial saint would not be a match for the two of them. How can they be bad? There is no need to talk about Zhang Lai. He is already publicly acknowledged in Tianyue Peak. He is already one of the top 10 core disciples of Tianyue Peak. I heard from the people of Beichen Peak earlier that Mu Heng is the son of the Beichen Peak's Peak Master. He spends most of his time cultivating in the back mountains, turning himself into a saber, and using his strength to prove his Tao. Every time his cultivation increases, his strength increases exponentially. I wonder how long Xiao Chun can last. I believe he will not be able to last more than 500 moves. Indeed, after all, he is fighting 1 against 2. His essence expenditure is double that of the two of them. The longer it goes, the greater the difference will be. However, for him to be able to last for so long, his strength is indeed horrifying. While the people in the arena were fighting, the people outside the arena were not idle either. They all expressed their views and opinions. After this battle, even if Xiao Chun lost, the rumors about him would fall apart. As the saying goes, the laymen watch the excitement, while the insiders watch the ropes. The few peak masters in the spectator stands were completely shocked. They were incomparably astonished by Xiao Chun's strength. His aura is long and drawn out, and he is able to multitask. His saber techniques and fist techniques are perfectly coordinated. This fellow is truly horrifying. The Gongyu Peak's Peak Master sighed. The Jade Maiden Peak's Peak Master, Chu Shangyun, also had an expression of admiration on her pretty face. The strength of his physical body is comparable to Mu Heng's. His saber techniques can suppress Zhang Lai's. His essence seems to be inexhaustible. I wonder how strong he will become after he becomes a martial saint. The Biyun Peak's Peak Master, Song Ke, had not said anything since he made a fool of himself earlier. When he saw Xiao Chun's true strength, he thought to himself anxiously, his potential is too horrifying. If he is given time to grow, who knows what horrifying realm he will reach. At that time, the consequences would be dire. I have to find an opportunity to kill this person. Chapter 229. When the Beichen Peak's Peak Master, Mu Feng, saw Xiao Chun, he was astonished as well. He originally thought that Mu Heng would be able to obtain the first rank easily. Now it looked like it would be difficult. However, this was good as well. If he could poke Mu Heng's spirit and make him restrain himself, it would only be beneficial for him in the future. Leng Tianzheng saw all this. After a while he sighed and said, Ruyue, you really accepted a good disciple this time. Tianyue Peak has dominated the first rank of the core disciples for 10 years. Now it is time to hand it over. Lu Ruyue revealed a cheerful smile on her flirtatious face. Seeing Xiao Chun's growth, she was probably the happiest person. Martial Uncle Leng, you are too polite. Tianyue Peak is filled with talents. This time, we still have the most number of people who passed. Haha, let's see. Zhang Lai has not used his saber intent on a large scale. Junior brother Mu's son should still have some trump cards that he has not used yet. The result of this battle has not been determined yet. Leng Tianzheng smiled gently and changed the topic. Even if they lost the first rank in this exam, Leng Tianzheng would not care too much about it. After all, the overall strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was still there. There was an endless supply of new disciples. They would still be able to suppress the other peaks. Bang! Bang! As the crowd discussed, there were 2 more loud sounds coming from the drill grounds. Countless spear blades shook a few times and were pulled into the air. After that, they were burned into powder by the shockwave. The strong wind died down and the yellow sand scattered. The 3 of them moved back, and their figures slowly appeared before the crowd. Mu Heng's complexion was pale and blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. The blazing purple light on his body also slowly dimmed. Zhang Lai's clothes were tattered, and there were many saber wounds all over his body. Some of the wounds were very deep and blood flowed out continuously. He was in a sorry state. Xiao Chen held his saber in one hand and the banner in the other. Sweat flowed down his face continuously. There were also some saber wounds on his body. However, they were not fatal. With his strong physical body, he had mostly recovered. Xiao Chen's long robes fluttered in the wind. His long, black hair fluttered in the wind. The snow-white saber gave off a cold light and the banner in his hand fluttered. Xiao Chen's aura flourished as his qi and blood surged into the sky. He felt incredibly delighted and wanted to fight another 800 rounds. You are very strong. If you can withstand this move of mine, I will take the initiative to withdraw from this competition. Mu Heng said indifferently as he gently wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips. Zhang Lai remained silent for a while. He took out some medicine from his space ring and slowly applied it to his wounds. He said indifferently, "Me too. If you can receive my final move, I will forfeit this core disciple exam." Xiao. Xiao Chen waved the banner in his hand and stabbed it into the ground. He said, "It doesn't matter. Whoever comes first wins. The banner in my hand belongs to him." "Me first," Zhang Lai said softly. His aura started to slowly gather. He grasped the saber in his right hand tightly and infused the saber intent he comprehended into his aura. Suddenly, a boundless strong wind blew behind Zhang Lai. Everywhere the strong wind passed, some of the air currents were sliced apart, giving off a zzz sound. Zhang Lai's saber intent actually merged with the strong wind. With your talent, you should have already comprehended the 16th move of the Lingyun saber technique. However, my everlasting startling cloud is infused with my small perfection saber intent. Its might is incomparable. I hope you can block it. Just as Zhang Lai finished speaking, wisps of mist appeared above the formation out of nowhere, blocking everyone's line of sight, preventing them from seeing what was happening inside. Not only that, this fog could even obscure one's 5 senses and spiritual sense. Xiao Chen thought to himself in shock. Zhang Lai's saber intent must be in the fog as well. Indeed, in the next moment, Xiao Chen felt a killing intent coming from all directions within the clouds. When the clouds touched his skin, they immediately started to attack his protective essence, giving off a zzz sound. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. The qi whirlpool in his dantian spun rapidly, continuously increasing the strength of his essence. Within the clouds, the 5 senses were blocked. When he extended out his spiritual sense, all he felt was the boundless clouds. Xiao Chen was like a blind man within the clouds. He could not see anything. This move put Xiao Chen in a disadvantageous position. Xiao Chen simply closed his eyes and stopped using his eyes to observe his surroundings. He was going to deal with the changes by remaining unchanged. Zhang Lai, who was hidden in the clouds, locked his aura on Xiao Chen. When he felt Xiao Chen's movements, he revealed a faint smile. No matter who it is, after their senses are blocked, they will not be able to receive this attack of mine. Everlasting startling cloud. The surrounding clouds slowly scattered and gathered towards the saber in Zhang Lai's hand. White spots of light leaped about on the black saber blade. Boom. When all the clouds disappeared, the saber in Zhang Lai's hand had already absorbed all the saber intent in the clouds. The light of the entire saber had reached an incredible level. The most important thing was that this saber had already appeared less than a meter in front of Xiao Chen. The tip of the saber was pointed at Xiao Chen. The saber gave off a strong wind, blowing Xiao Chen's hair back violently. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly. In the eyes of the onlookers, it was only a few breaths of time. Zhang Lai swung his saber, and the clouds surrounded the formation. In the next moment, the clouds disappeared. Zhang Lai had already arrived before Xiao Chen with a stunning saber strike. It was very strange. Among the people present, only a few discovered the secret. The instant the clouds appeared, Zhang Lai used the time when Xiao Chen's senses were blocked to silently fly to a spot 10 meters in front of him. Before the saber blade touched Xiao Chen, that resplendent saber light turned into a tiny saber qi and shot towards Xiao Chen's forehead. So, at the crucial moment, Xiao Chen finally opened his tightly shut eyes. That tiny saber qi was faster than the speed of sound. At such a close distance, by the time Xiao Chen opened his eyes, it had already arrived in front of his eyes. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with his feet, and his entire body spun rapidly. His spinning body created a shockwave, and tiny cyclones appeared in the surrounding space. The thin saber chi chased after Xiaochen, quickly extending through the air. Everywhere it passed, cracks appeared in the air. The thin thread-like saber chi seemed like it would catch up to Xiaochen in the next moment. However, it could not catch up. The corner of Zhang Lai's lips curled up. He raised his right hand, which held the saber, and the thin thread started to become thinner. He looked at Xiaochen and smiled. It's useless. No matter how fast you run, you will not be able to escape from my everlasting startling cloud infused with small perfection saber intent. Xiaochen's entire body continued to spin. He did not waver because of Zhang Lai's words. The thin thread-like saber chi eventually became so thin that it could not be seen with the naked eye. Then it completely disappeared into the air. Xiaochen had already learned the everlasting startling cloud. Naturally, he would not think that the everlasting startling cloud had already run out of energy. The next burst of energy was the true essence of the everlasting startling cloud. Xiaochen's body continued to spin, rising higher and higher. In the blink of an eye, he was 100 meters away. The Lingyun saber technique itself was a superior grade Earth-ranked martial technique. This was especially so for the final 3 moves. They were close to the might of a heaven-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, it had infused all of Zhang Lai's saber intent. How strong would this everlasting startling cloud be? Even Xiaochen himself did not know. If he wanted to block this move, aside from the 17th move of the Lingyun saber technique, twisting road around peak, Xiaochen had no other way to do so. However, this twisting road around peak did not allow Xiaochen to make a breakthrough. He only had a flash of inspiration and comprehended something. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he took the risk and executed it based on his intuition. If he failed, Xiaochen would be severely injured by the everlasting startling cloud infused with saber intent, wasting half a year of his time. If he succeeded, he would comprehend the 17th move of the Lingyun saber technique, twisting road around peak. From then on, he would have another true killing move. With a 50-50 chance of victory, Xiaochen did not hesitate to bet on it. With his current comprehension ability, he was still unable to comprehend the twisting road around peak. It was clear that once he comprehended the twisting road around peak, its might would be extremely horrifying. Now that this opportunity was right in front of him, if he did not use it, he might have to wait another 10 years before he could comprehend it again. Appear! Zhang Lai shouted. And the thin line that originally disappeared in the air became like a laser saber chi. It appeared out of nowhere and pierced through the entire formation, continuing to move forward. Outside the drill grounds, a wall 2,000 meters away from Zhang Lai was pierced by the saber chi. The entire wall immediately cracked and collapsed in the next moment. Fortunately, the attack area of the thin line was only a small area. When it disappeared, Xiaochen's body started to grow taller. At this moment, he was already several hundred meters above the ground. Die. Everlasting startling cloud, explode. Zhang Lai roared ferociously, and the saber chi that was as resplendent as a laser suddenly scattered. It turned into countless beams of light and exploded in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. The beams of light were like fireworks exploding. It was like the most beautiful scene in the world. However, the more beautiful something was, the more deadly it was. This beam of light was no exception. Good. Zhang Lai's saber intent is indeed horrifying. Originally, the everlasting startling cloud could only be executed on a flat surface. Now it has no blind spots. Furthermore, its might is very strong. It is already very close to a heaven-ranked martial technique. I guarantee it with my status as the Biyun Peak's Peak Master. Even if Yi Chun does not die, he will be severely injured. He will not be able to dodge it. Song Ke, whose eyes originally had no color in them, immediately shouted excitedly when he saw this scene. It was as though he was afraid that others did not know. His voice was shockingly loud. Lu Riyue also felt conflicted. She did not expect the everlasting startling cloud to be so horrifying. With her strength, she would have to put in a lot of effort to block this move. Could Xiaochen dodge it? Every strand of the boundless light contained a horrifying force. It could easily pierce through the defense of a martial grand master. Furthermore, it did not have any blind spots. There was no way to dodge it. Since he could not dodge it, he might as well break it. Xiao Chen's body stopped spinning and he shouted, "Road twisting peak." Chapter 230. So, Xiao Chen, who was high in the sky, pointed his saber at Zhang Lai, who was on the ground. He locked onto Zhang Lai with his spiritual sense, and his body moved in a slanted line, moving towards the ground like a meteor. Everywhere Xiao Chen passed, a mountain slowly appeared from the top to the bottom of the mountain, along with Xiao Chen's figure. There were strange flowers and plants on the mountain peak. The forest was shady and there were birds and beasts flying around. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he found that there were actually countless buildings at the waist of the mountain. He could vaguely see countless figures practicing martial techniques in the middle of the mountain. Every time the mountain peak grew, it was clear that Xiao Chen's speed had increased by one level. In the spectator stands, all the elders and peak masters were astonished. This is the mysterious phenomenon of the small perfection realm. There are no flaws at all. The lights flying towards Xiao Chen were all submerged in the mysterious phenomenon that Xiao Chen created, disappearing without a trace. As for the lights in other directions, they all exploded. They were like claps of thunder, resounding through the clouds and roaring continuously. Finally, they merged into one. The air seemed like it was sliced in half like a curtain of water. It only mended after a long time. Unfortunately, it was not in Xiao Chen's direction, so it was useless. Wuxia. The mountain peak completely formed. Xiao Chen's speed instantly broke through the speed of sound. There was a sonic boom in Zhang Lai's ears. In a flash, he landed firmly 200 meters behind Zhang Lai. Zhang Lai stretched out his hand and gently touched his forehead. There was a small wound there. To him it was negligible. "I've lost." Zhang Lai knew that Xiao Chen had shown mercy. Otherwise, the saber would have pierced through his forehead. Although he was dissatisfied, he still jumped off the spear tip. Boom! Zhang Lai staggered and fell to the ground. That last saber strike had used up all of his mental energy. In the end, he still failed and could no longer hold on. Immediately, the Jade Maiden Peak elders came over and quickly carried Zhang Lai out to treat his injuries. "Your turn," Xiao Chen said as he looked at Mu Heng, who was not far away. Mu Heng smiled faintly and jumped down from the spear tip. "There's no need. Your final move is a small perfection mysterious phenomenon. I cannot block it. You have expended too much of your essence qi. I will not take advantage of you. In the future, I will defeat you fair and square." Twisting road around peak. So the 17th move of the Lingyun saber technique is like this. No one has used it for several hundred years already. That's right. Zhang Lai's 16th move, Everlasting Startling Clouds, was already terrifying enough. I didn't expect it to be nothing in front of the 17th move. Mu Heng is very magnanimous, directly giving up and not taking advantage of others. With such magnanimity, his future accomplishments will not be low. Senior brother Mu has raised a good son. The peak leaders on the platform expressed their opinions regarding the battle from before. Only one person remained silent, with a dark expression on his face. Needless to say, this person was the one who used the Biyun Peak's Peak Master to guarantee Xiao Chen's defeat, Song Quebec. Right after he spoke, Xiao Chen used the twisting road around Peak to slap him in the face. The story was truly full of twists and turns. Junior brother Song, it looks like you cannot speak so casually in the future. Haha. The Qianduan Peak's Peak Master joked. Before Song Ke lost an arm, he was extremely arrogant and domineering. He did not have a good relationship with the peak masters of the other peaks. Now that they saw him suffer a few setbacks, they could not help but make fun of him. Song Ke snorted coldly. What ability does he have? Mu Heng just gave up. If Mu Heng did not give up, this brat would have lost the right to take the test. When Lu Ruyue heard this, she immediately retorted. All the Biyun Peak disciples have been eliminated. Why are you still sitting here? Are you trying to make things difficult for yourself? Song Ke's face turned red. He smacked the wooden table violently and said, Since when is it up to you to decide whether I stay or go? So, just as the two of them were arguing, the first elder Jiang Qi, who was on the platform, shot out another black dart at the chief examiner. Did the situation change again? Everyone stopped their discussion and asked suspiciously. On the drill grounds, the chief examiner caught the black dart with a schwa sound. He opened the note on it and after a while, he looked at the crowd and said, Mu Heng and Zhang Lai, the Elders' Assembly has decided to make an exception for the three of you to pass the second stage. We will stop the test for now. 3 days from now, we will start the arena battles. Dismissed. Furthermore, I believe everyone has already guessed that the test this time is different. There are only 10 spots for the core disciple test this time. However, the reward will be 5 times that of the previous ones. I hope everyone will work hard when they return. Mu Heng, who was originally preparing to leave, could not help but stop when he heard this. He shook his head and smiled. If I cannot obtain the first rank, the purpose of the test is not that important. On the formation, Xiaochen held the banner and jumped down gently. He looked at the elders' seats on the high platform. There was a pensive look in his eyes. What are they preparing for these 3 days? Late at night, the moonlight shone through the window into Xiaochen's courtyard. Xiaochen sat cross-legged on his bed and circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. He slowly recovered the essence, qi, and spirit that he exhausted during the day. The qi whirlpool in Xiaochen's dantian spun continuously. Drops of crystalline liquid slowly fell from the qi whirlpool. Xiaochen felt the speed of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation circulation. Xiaochen felt the speed of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation circulation. And Xiaochen thought to himself, it looks like I am about to break through to the 4th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Something big will happen after this test. I have to make preparations in advance. If I have the opportunity to break through to the 4th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, I can go all out and prepare for a rainy day. At midnight, the spirit blood jade on Xiaochen's chest silently flashed with a white light. Under the illumination of the moonlight, Bai's body, which was as smooth as snow, appeared quietly. Then, it quickly leaped through the window and headed out of the courtyard. Xiaochen opened his eyes and looked in the direction Bai left. He smiled faintly and did not bother with it. These days, Bai would go out every night. At first, Xiaochen was somewhat worried. However, he discovered that it did not go far. After stealing a bottle of wine from Xiaoyang, it would go to the back of the mountain to cultivate. It would return punctually before daybreak. That was all. Xiaochen could relax. To the restless Bai, the place it disliked the most was the spirit blood jade. Xiaochen was happy to let it go out for a breather. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiaochen continued to circulate the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. He was making his final preparations for breaking through to the 4th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Bai, who was outside the courtyard, ran out happily. It turned into a white figure and made its way to Xiao Yang's room with great familiarity. It gently opened the window to Xiao Yang's room without making any sound. When it came out, it carried a bottle of wine and drank it happily. After it finished drinking the wine in the bottle, a blush appeared on Bai's face. Under the illumination of the moonlight, it looked very charming and beautiful. Its intelligent eyes were filled with charm. Bai quickly went to the back of the mountain and found a place with dense spiritual energy. Then it sat down cross-legged like a human. The dense essence in its body slowly circulated the mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation. The mist was hazy and the surrounding spiritual energy was like a torrential storm. Under the moonlight, the raindrops of spiritual energy had an indescribable gentleness and beauty. The rainwater instantly entered Bai's body. Slowly, Bai's body became as transparent as glass. Below its body, there was a blurry white spot of light that was very eye-catching. It jumped around happily, swallowing the spiritual energy that entered its body. As the amount of spiritual energy it absorbed increased, the spot of light slowly grew larger. Amidst the haziness, that spot of light. No, it could no longer be called a spot of light. Instead, it was a small ball of light that gave off a gentle glow. The small ball of light changed continuously, forming all sorts of shapes. Finally, it struggled to form a small human figure. However, before it could maintain this state for a minute, the human figure scattered into countless spots of light and turned back into a ball of light. The mysterious 9 Heavenly Revolution transformation was a high-ranked immortal-grade secret manual for demonic cultivators. According to the records in the Compendium of Cultivation, in terms of cultivation speed, it was much faster than the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation that Xiaochen cultivated. If Xiaochen was here and discovered what Bai was doing, he would be greatly astonished. This was because Bai was actually undergoing transformation. The spirit beasts of the Tianwu continent could only undergo transformation after they reached martial monarch. Furthermore, the process was not only extremely painful, it was also very shocking. The chances of failure were also very high. However, once the transformation succeeded, it would be a qualitative leap for a spirit beast. Not only would their outer appearance change, they would also become no different from humans. Furthermore, their spiritual intelligence would also improve. Their bodies would also be able to cultivate human martial techniques and cultivation techniques. For a spirit beast that could only rely on its instincts to fight, its strength would increase by at least twofold. The path of transformation had a very low success rate. Once it failed, it would turn to dust. Although most spirit beasts yearned for it, very few would choose this path. Furthermore, even though spirit beasts succeeded in transforming, they could not completely integrate into human society. Most of them would join the myriad fiend palace of the fiend race. That was a sect passed down by the ancient fiend race. As long as they were there, they would have a place to stay. The raindrops formed from spiritual energy slowly scattered. Bai stopped cultivating and raised his head to look at the night sky. A trace of melancholy flashed in his intelligent eyes. Under the gentle moonlight, Bai hugged his wine bottle and walked unsteadily towards Xiaochen's courtyard. 3 days passed very quickly. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation had already stabilized at the 3rd layer. As long as Xiaochen was willing, he could break through to the 4th layer at any time. On this night, Xiaochen practiced the Lingyun saber technique in the courtyard, consolidating the twisting road around peak that he had learned. A cool breeze blew in the courtyard and leaves flew everywhere. All sorts of illusions of mountains appeared and disappeared continuously. Xiaochen sheathed his saber and stood upright. He carefully thought about the scene of that day. The path I walk is different from Zhang Li's. I want to withdraw the mysterious phenomenon and focus on the energy within. However, the twisting road around peak that day only materialized the mysterious phenomenon, but did not merge it perfectly. If I could merge it into my saber technique, its might should be able to improve. Even the small perfection mysterious phenomenon is not without flaws. Before a true bladesman, it could be easily broken. Thus, I have to think of a way to merge the twisting road around peak mysterious phenomenon into my saber. Chapter 231. Boom. Just as Xiaochen was thinking hard, there was a resplendent firework in the dark sky of the Lingyun mountain range. The dazzling firework reached an altitude of 10,000 meters in the blink of an eye. When the firework exploded, it turned into the appearance of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's founder, the Saber Emperor. It gathered in the night sky. In the next instant, the Saber Emperor's figure scattered. Thousands of meteor-like lights flew in all directions. Some of the meteor-like lights flew for thousands of meters before falling. Some flew for tens of thousands of meters, but they did not dissipate. In an instant, they spread throughout the entire Great Qin nation. The Saber Emperor's convening order. Xiaochen exclaimed in shock as he looked at the scattering firework in the sky. This was the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's second convening order. It was second only to the Heavenly Saber convening order that the sect sent out during a calamity. It covered the entire Great Qin nation. As long as it was a disciple wearing the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's identity token, regardless of where they were in the Great Qin nation, they would rush back as soon as they received the convening order. In the past 1,000 years, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had only used the Saber Emperor's convening order twice. During the demonic calamity 20 years ago, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion did not use it. What exactly happened this time for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to use the Saber Emperor's convening order? Like Xiaochen, countless people in the Great Qin nation sank into deep thought. Early the next morning, Lu Suifeng and Xiaochen rode the green bird to the drill grounds of the heaven viewing platform. This time, Lu Suifeng did not make the mistake of losing his sense of direction. In less than an hour, they arrived at the drill grounds. Originally, Lu Suifeng thought he was early enough. Who knew, the 18 inner disciples who passed the test had already been waiting for a long time. Not only that, the spectator stands were filled with people. When Lu Suifeng looked around, he saw a dense crowd. A rough count gave at least 3,000 or 4,000 people. Most of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner disciples were present. Aside from the inner disciples, there was also a large group of core disciples and true inheritors. They were all seated in their own pavilions. The atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Xiaochen did not understand. He asked Lu Suifeng in a soft voice, "What's going on? Why are there so many people here today? There are more than twice as many people as the previous time." Lu Suifeng also whispered, "Did you see the Saber Emperor's summoning order last night?" Xiaochen nodded and said, "I saw it. However, the Saber Emperor summoned us. What does this test have to do with us?" The Saber Emperor's convening order was indeed a big matter. To put it in perspective, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was one of the top sects in the Great Qin nation. If they used the Saber Emperor's convening order, it would be a big deal in the Great Qin nation. But what did this have to do with their assessment? The foundational stage had already ended in advance the last time. Today's assessment only consisted of the arena stage. In Xiaochen's opinion, it wouldn't be a problem for him to take first place among the 20 people. Although the fight with Zhang Lai and Mu Heng was delightful, Xiaochen had yet to bring out his full strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, he was confident of ending the fight in 10 moves. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be many people watching an arena battle with a predetermined outcome. However, not only were there no fewer people today, there were even more people than 3 days ago. Lu Suifeng suddenly understood and said, "That's right. You have been cultivating bitterly for the past 3 days. You have no idea what is happening outside. You will understand after I explain it to you." On the second day after the last test ended, the Heaven Viewing platform made an announcement in advance. The main hall will be recalling all the core disciples undergoing experiential training outside. Today, there will be a ranking battle to choose the 90 strongest core disciples. Hence, we are not the main characters today. What exactly is going on? Why do I have to find all the core disciples? Xiaochen thought suspiciously. He was not worried that these people would not be able to make it back in one night. In every big city in the Great Qin nation, there were relay stations that connected directly to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. As long as one spent a considerable amount of spirit stones, they would be able to rush back to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion within half a day. However, Xiaochen could not figure out why the core disciple ranking battle would be on the same day as the ordinary inner disciple exam. Xiaochen asked, "Did the announcement say why they would be choosing the 90 strongest core disciples?" Lu Suifeng shook his head and said, "They did not say. It should be a very important mission. Otherwise, they would not have used the Saber Emperor summoning order to summon them so urgently. Those who did not return within a day after receiving the summoning order would all be severely punished." As they spoke, many black dots appeared in the sky above the drill grounds. As the black dots got closer, everyone discovered that these black dots were actually ferocious flying spirit beasts. The spirit beasts quickly descended. When they were 100 meters in the air, some cultivators jumped down from them. Bang, 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 bang. Their feet landed heavily on the ground. They were not injured at all. After they landed, these people headed for the pavilion specially prepared for the core disciples. The core disciples who had not gone out for experiential training were already waiting there. That is Qianduan Peak's Lin Yun, ranked 18th on the Wind Cloud list. He cultivates a pure fire-attributed true yang art. His saber techniques are very tyrannical. After not seeing him for half a year, his strength seems to have increased again. He is now a peak superior grade martial saint. Ranked 10th is Jade Maiden Peak's Yun Kursen. I wonder what layer her soft music art is at. Ranked 2nd is Tianyue Peak's Yi Lingfeng. He has not returned for more than a year already. Unexpectedly, he is a medial grade martial saint now. I wonder if the first ranked Morong Chong will arrive. He was already a peak inferior grade martial saint last year. I wonder how strong he is now. As more and more people jumped off the spirit beasts, someone immediately recognized these people. They were all core disciples in the top 100 of the wind cloud list. When they came out one by one, they all exclaimed in surprise. The 20 people on the drill grounds also focused their attention on this group of people. Xiaochen casually glanced around and discovered that this group of people was indeed very strong. Every one of them had a very strong aura. Furthermore, most of them were inferior grade martial saints. Furthermore, a small number of them were peak inferior grade martial saints. It looked like the top 90 core disciples were most likely chosen from the top 100 of the wind cloud list. The top 10 already have such an aura. In that case, how strong would the first-ranked person be? Xiaochen thought to himself. Wuxia. Suddenly there was a sonic boom in the air. A black dot flew over quickly from afar. Its speed was close to the speed of sound. As it moved through the air, it gave off sonic booms that reverberated in the air above the drill grounds. Bang! The person who arrived was still 1,000 meters away. The intense sonic booms were still reverberating in the air when the figure landed on the ground. He was dressed in moon-white robes. He had handsome and exquisite facial features. He held a saber in his right hand, and his aura was withdrawn. He had an indescribable charm as he slowly walked towards the pavilion. Morongchong. Morongchong is really back. This is a flying martial technique. I can't see through his strength at all. The crowd in the spectator stands cried out in surprise. Many of the female disciples blushed and their eyes lit up. They jumped up cautiously. When Xiaochen saw this person, he could not help but reveal a grave expression on his previously calm face. Although the top 10 core disciples that Xiaochen saw earlier were very strong, if they were to fight, Xiaochen had a 50% chance of victory. If Xiaochen could go all out, he would even have a 60% chance of victory against the second-ranked Yi Lingfeng. Only this person gave him a feeling that he could not defeat him. Among the younger generation, Xiaochen had only experienced this feeling from Lu Ruyue back then. Could this person be compared to Lu Ruyue back then? The reason why it was not the current Lu Ruyue was because Lu Ruyue was already very close to becoming a martial king. She was only a step away from reaching the realm that everyone in the younger generation looked up to, unrivaled within the same cultivation realm. Although Xiaochen could not see through this person's cultivation realm, from his aura, he could roughly guess that he was a middle-stage superior grade martial saint. He was still a distance away from peak superior grade martial saint. Which peak's inner disciple is Morongchong from? Why have I not heard of him before? Xiaochen asked out of curiosity. When Lu Suifeng heard this, he had an uncomfortable expression on his face. He said he is a free person, he does not belong to any peak. Xiaochen observed Lu Suifeng's expression and knew that Lu Suifeng still had something to say. Free person? What do you mean? After anyone entered the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect, the first thing they had to do was choose a peak. After that, they could customize their identity token and become a true inner disciple. How could there be someone who did not belong to any peak? If he did not belong to any peak, then why did he come to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Could it be just for the dense spiritual energy of the Lingyun mountain range? No one would find it strange. Since he could enter the inner sect, naturally, he would place more importance on the high-ranked martial techniques and cultivation techniques of the various peaks. An environment with dense spiritual energy would always be secondary. Lu Suifeng paused for a while, as though he had made a decision. He sighed and said, I'll tell you the truth. Morongchong used to be a disciple of our Qingyan Peak. There is also Wang Rong, whom I met in the library. He used to be a disciple of Qingyan Peak as well. Morongchong and my elder sister are fellow disciples. They grew up together. 2 years ago, after he failed to woo my sister, he left Qingyan Peak in a fit of anger. Xiaochen was somewhat surprised. He did not expect there to be such a story. He could not help but take a few more glances at Morongchong, who had already walked up to the pavilion. After all the core disciples arrived, the chief examiner slowly appeared on the drill grounds. He looked at Xiaochen and the others and said, Each of you will have to participate in 15 battles. Every victory will give you 1 point. Defeats will not give you any points. The person with the most points after the battles will be the number 1 core disciple. He will be rewarded with 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones and an inferior grade earth rank spirit weapon. The remaining 9 will receive the same rewards: 500 inferior grade spirit stones and a superior grade profound ranked spirit weapon. At the same time, your ranking in the ranking hall will automatically increase by 100. The rewards were indeed more than 5 times more than the previous years. Unfortunately, Xiaochen did not care about any of it. Regardless of whether it was a spirit weapon or inferior grade spirit stones, he did not need too many of them. What he needed the most now were rank 6 body tempering medicinal pills or natural treasures that could temper the physical body. Next were high-ranked cultivation techniques that could temper the physical body. Chapter 232. The arena for the competition was in the middle of the drill grounds. There was nothing special about it. Most of the opponents that met Xiaochen chose to give up. Out of the 15 matches, Xiaochen did not fight in 13 of them, obtaining victory. Only Mu Heng and Zhang Lai chose to continue. Unfortunately, even when the two of them worked together for the past 3 days, they could not do anything to Xiaochen. In a one-on-one fight, Xiaochen used 60% of his strength and ended the fight within 50 moves. Xiaochen returned victorious in all 15 matches. Without any suspense, he obtained the first rank. The second rank would be between Mu Heng and Zhang Lai. The two of them were roughly equal in strength. After fighting for a long time, there was no clear victor. In the end, Mu Heng relied on the advantage of his physical body and had a slight advantage in endurance. He defeated Zhang Lai and obtained the second rank. By noon, all the matches had ended. This year's core disciples were finally chosen. Lu Suifeng managed to obtain the 10th rank by a hair's breadth, finally getting his wish. Go and rest first. After the core disciple ranking competition is over, you will have another match with the core disciples ranked in the top 10. The chief examiner reminded everyone. Originally, Xiaochen was planning to leave after receiving his reward. However, when he heard the chief examiner's words, he stopped. This was not bad. It would be good to see how strong the top 10 core disciples on the wind cloud list were. In the spectator stands, the chief examiner arranged a row of seats for Xiaochen, Mu Heng, and the rest of the new core disciples, separating them from the other inner disciples. Following the appearance of the 500 core disciples, the atmosphere in the spectator stands was ignited. It was like the atmosphere of the end of the year ranking war. However, in reality, this sudden match could be seen as the end of the year ranking war from a certain point of view. The top 100 core disciples were basically the same as the top 100 of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Compared to the end of the year ranking war, the only thing this ranking war lacked was the number of participants. As for the quality of the participants, it would definitely be higher. Thus, it was rather interesting. Yi Chen, I feel that with your strength, if you participate in this core disciple ranking war, you will be able to enter the top 10, Mu Heng suddenly said. Zhang Lai said with some dissatisfaction. You must be joking. Everyone in the top 10 is at least a peak inferior grade martial saint. From martial grandmaster to martial saint is the first big hurdle that cultivators face. Even if there is only a slight difference, the difference in strength will be like the difference between heaven and earth. They can condense their essence and attack outside their body. Furthermore, their attack power will increase by several times. There was indeed a natural difference between a martial grandmaster and a martial saint. Zhang Lai was right. If a peak superior grade martial master defeated an inferior grade martial grandmaster, or even a medial grade martial grandmaster, it would not be strange. However, it would be extremely difficult for a peak martial grandmaster to defeat a newly advanced inferior grade martial saint. Although the martial heaven continent wasn't completely unheard of, these people were all geniuses rarely seen in 100 years. Perhaps they had an innate bloodline or inherited martial spirit. Or perhaps they had a cultivation technique or martial technique that was much stronger than their opponent. Only then could they achieve such an effect. If it was a regular inferior grade martial saint, with Xiaochen's strength, Zhang Lai felt that he could defeat him. However, The people in the top 10 were all peak inferior grade martial saints. Furthermore, all of them had fought hundreds of battles before they could reach the top 10. Compared to the common inferior grade martial saints at the foot of the mountain, they were on a completely different level. Just their cultivation technique alone was much stronger than a regular inferior grade martial saints. Xiaochen had an indifferent expression towards the discussion of the two. He did not intend to argue with them. No matter what they said, it would not be as convincing as a battle. There would be a battle to prove himself. Mu Heng looked at Zhang Lai and said, "Don't be unconvinced. 3 days ago, when the two of us worked together, he could only bring out 60% of his strength. If he attacked without holding anything back, he would be able to hold his own against a medial grade martial saint." Zhang Lai did not believe that Xiaochen only used 60% of his strength. His and Mu Heng's combined combat prowess would definitely be equal to a medial grade martial saint. If Xiaochen only used 60% of his strength, and was able to hold his own against them, did that not mean that a medial grade martial saint was no match for him? Impossible, he was only a peak martial grandmaster. How could he be compared to a medial grade martial saint? Zhang Lai shook his head, and did not continue discussing this issue. There were 10 arenas on the drill grounds. The rules of the competition were the same as Xiaochen's earlier one. It was also a point system. The top 90 would be determined based on the number of points accumulated. The strength of the core disciples could not be underestimated. Most of them had their own consummate techniques. Furthermore, they were all people who used the saber. Xiaochen did not find it boring as he watched the matches one by one. Instead, he gained some experience. However, as Xiaochen continued watching, although the battles were exciting, there was nothing special about them. Facing the scorching sun in the south made him feel bored. Jade Maiden Peak's Yin Kursen is going up. She was ranked in the top 10 of the previous Wind Cloud list. Her Heavenly Melody saber technique is very hard to defend against. I wonder who her opponent is. Her opponent is the 18th ranked Yanfeng. He is also a ruthless character. However, he should not be a match for Yin Kursen. After watching for so long, the top 10 finally made their appearance. It is getting a little boring. Same. If it were not for these top 10 people making their appearance, I would not even be here today. When Yin Kursen made her appearance, the somewhat dull spectator stands immediately became very lively. There were all sorts of discussions. Xiaochen looked at the girl slowly walking up the arena. Yin Kursen was dressed in white. She was not considered pretty, but she was delicate and pretty. She looked very simple and natural. A peak inferior grade martial saint. Her cultivation is the lowest among the top 10. The Heavenly Melody saber technique she practices should have something extraordinary about it. Otherwise, she would not be able to enter the top 10, Xiaochen analyzed in his heart. Xiaochen suddenly thought of something. He asked Lu Suifeng, "How come I don't see Chu Xinyan? She is also a core disciple, right?" When Chu Xinyan was mentioned, a smile immediately appeared on Lu Suifeng's face. He explained, "Xinyan. She obtained her core disciple status by relying on her status as an alchemist. Most of the disciples on Jade Maiden Peak are like that. They belong to another organization. There are very few people like Yin Kursen who relied on their combat prowess to become a core disciple. So that was the case. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's method was rather humane. Alchemists contributed greatly to a sect. They could even be said to be a scarce resource. You seem to be very familiar with the disciples of Jade Maiden Peak. How many moves do you think Yin Kursen will need to defeat her opponent?" Xiaochen smiled faintly. Lu Suifeng smiled embarrassedly. He said, "Yin Kursen, she basically spends most of her time training outside. All the contribution missions she took were in places far away. I have not spoken much to her." While they were speaking, Yin Kursen and Yanfeng had already walked onto the arena. Under the direction of the referee, they stood still and the crowd stopped chatting. "Senior Sister Yun, sorry for the offense." After the two of them bowed, Yanfeng spoke politely. He drew his saber and instantly sent out 10-odd saber chi. The saber chi tore through the water like air and flew towards Yin Kursen. Yin Kursen was not an ordinary opponent. Hence, the moment she stepped onto the arena, Yanfeng did not hold back. He sent out 10-odd saber chi with all his might, attacking from all sorts of tricky angles. His figure also instantly rushed forward. There was a flash of white light and Yun Kursen's figure drifted far away. Her body was so soft, it was like she did not have any bones. She easily dodged all the saber chi. Yen Feng smiled gently, and happened to appear where Yun Kursen landed. I already predicted that you would land here. This is my true killing move, spatial tearing cross chop. Yen Feng swung his saber and a cross-shaped saber chi quickly formed in the air. The air was like a curtain of water. Cracks appeared in the cross-shaped chop. It was clear how strong this move was. This attack was very accurate. It was aimed at the angle at which Yun Kursen would land. It was very difficult to change her position in midair. Even if she managed to dodge it, she would be in a passive position for a long time. Yun Kursen's expression was still very calm. Suddenly, her body fell straight down. It was like a leaf falling to the ground suddenly turning into a piece of metal. It was very strange. The instant Yun Kursen landed, she suddenly increased her speed and managed to catch up to the cross-shaped saber chi. She pushed her feet off the ground and her body instantly shot tens of meters away. She still managed to easily dodge Yen Feng's attack. What a profound movement technique. In one moment, she is as light as a swallow, as light as a feather. In the next moment, she is as heavy as a mountain. Furthermore, she is very adept at switching between the two states. When Xiaochen saw this scene, he could not help but praise. Lu Suifeng said, "This is the rare peak earth-ranked movement technique of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Thunder Cloud Art. Normally, only true inheritors or people with outstanding talent are qualified to practice it. However, if one wants to have any achievements, they will need a high comprehension ability." When Yen Feng saw that Yun Kursen dodged his meticulously planned move, he had a slightly disappointed expression on his face. He shouted and his figure left a long trail in the air as he hacked at Yun Kursen with his saber. Dang! This time, Yun Kursen did not choose to dodge. She did not draw her saber. Instead, she raised her right hand. The weapons clashed and gave off a melodious sound. Yun Kursen did not move at all as she blocked this attack. When Yen Feng saw that Yun Kursen did not even draw her saber, he revealed an angry expression. He said, "Senior Sister Yin, we have not met for half a year. Am I not even qualified for you to draw your saber?" Yun Kursen said unhurriedly, "Don't get distracted. If this was a battle to the death, you would already be dead." Yun Kursen's indifferent attitude completely enraged Yen Feng. He shouted and held his saber with both hands. A 2-meter-long saber light rose up from the saber and pushed Yun Kursen back continuously. Under the huge pressure, Yun Kursen could not block it with one hand. After a while, her body was pushed to the edge of the arena. If she fell off, she would lose the right to participate in this match. Still not drawing your saber? In that case, get down. Yen Feng shouted loudly and withdrew the 2-meter-long saber light. The aura of his body suddenly rose to its peak and knocked Yun Kursen back in an instant. While Yun Kursen was in the air, her expression was unhurried. She held her saber hilt with her right hand and slowly drew her saber. Chapter 233. Wang. An ear-piercing sonic boom spread from the arena to the entire drill ground. As the sound waves spread in all directions, everyone in the spectator seats felt their eardrums vibrate and their heads spin. Xiaochen calmed himself down and was astonished in his heart. What a horrifying sonic boom. He was already more than a kilometer away from the arena, yet he could still feel it so strongly. Yen Feng, who was at the center of the sonic boom, was instantly hit. He temporarily lost his hearing and his qi and blood surged. He could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. Boom. With a flip of her right hand, Yun Kursen drew out her saber and sheathed it. The sound wave that had already spread out in all directions created ripples in the air and formed a huge whirlpool. Then it actually returned to the saber. The instant the saber returned to its scabbard, the sound wave that had gathered once again exploded out, giving off a louder and more horrifying sound wave than before. However, although the sound was louder this time, the inner disciples in the spectator stands did not feel anything. This was because the sound wave had gathered into a line and struck Yanfeng's body. Blood leaked out of all the pores in Yanfeng's body. His face was frighteningly pale. He knelt on one knee with a piu-tong sound and watched as Yun Kursen slowly descended. Yanfeng smiled bitterly. Yun Kursen, it has only been half a year and you are not even qualified to draw your saber. The next time we meet, will you not even be qualified to draw your saber? Yun Kursen's white clothes fluttered in the wind and her expression did not change. She said, as a bladesman, it is not important whether I draw my saber or not. Don't bother with these superficial things. Otherwise it will be difficult to comprehend your saber intent. This round Yun Kursen wins, the referee in the arena said. Seeing Yun Kursen leave, Yanfeng felt a slight bitterness in his heart. A long time ago he could still stand shoulder to shoulder with her. Now he could only see her back. The Heavenly Melody Saber technique is indeed horrifying. She actually defeated Yanfeng with just half a move. Yun Kursen is still the same as before, always surprising people. Yanfeng's defeat was rather unjust. He was too caught up in whether his opponent would draw her saber or not. He still had some trump cards that he had not used yet. This is also because his mental state is not mature enough. After all, Yun Kursen's previous ranking on the Wind Cloud ranking was below his. Now he is somewhat unable to accept this. You can't say that. For a cultivator, mental state is sometimes more important than any cultivation technique or martial technique. It is also a part of a cultivator's strength. Although this duel was short, and everyone felt that it was not enough to watch it, it did not affect the quality of the competition. The discussions in the spectator stands never stopped. As Zhang Lai watched Yun Kursen leave, a strange look flashed in his eyes. He muttered, "This woman is not simple. Her state of the Heavenly Melody Saber technique has already reached great perfection." When Xiaochen heard this, he secretly nodded in his heart. The composition of a martial technique was divided into the route of true qi circulation in the meridians, the angle and footwork of the attack, and the concept contained in the martial technique. For example, the state of the rushing thunder saber technique was purely the state of thunder. The Lingyun saber technique had two states, the state of mountains and the state of clouds. A martial technique could only be considered to have reached great perfection when all three were merged. However, the comprehension of a state required comprehension ability, luck and patience. It was incomparably difficult to comprehend. If one focused on pursuing a state, they would end up stagnating. They might even regress. Thus, most cultivators would not overly pursue a state before their cultivation reached a certain level. Yun Kursen was able to comprehend the state of the Heavenly Melody Saber technique to great perfection when she was a peak inferior grade martial saint. This proved that this girl's talent, comprehension ability, and luck were all things that ordinary people could not compare to. Zhang Lai glanced at Mu Heng, then at Xiaochen. He smiled and said, "Do you still think that he can make it into the top 10 of the core disciples? Not to mention the difference in cultivation realm. Those who can make it into the top 10 are all geniuses. In the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, which is filled with talents, it is impossible to enter without some real skills." Mu Heng muttered to himself for a while before saying seriously, "Yun Kursen is very strong, very strong. However, she is still not a match for Xiaochen." Xiaochen looked at Mu Heng in surprise. He did not know where Mu Heng got his confidence from. Although he was not afraid of Yun Kursen, after watching the earlier match, he did not have absolute confidence in defeating her. Stop talking big. Yun Kursen only used half a move to defeat the 16th ranked Yanfeng. She still has many trump cards that she has not used yet. How can you be so sure that she is not a match for Xiaochen? In terms of cultivation realm, Xiaochen is only a peak martial saint. In terms of states, the Heavenly Melody Saber technique is close to great perfection. It is not weaker than Xiaochen's Lingyun Saber technique. Is it not easy to tell who is stronger? This time, before Zhang Lai could say anything, the other newly advanced core disciples retorted. Furthermore, there was evidence to back up their claims, making it impossible for them to argue. Mu Heng smiled faintly. There is no point in saying so much. In the future, you will naturally know if what I said is true or false. Lu Suifeng leaned over and whispered, Yi Chun, if you really go up against Yun Kursin, how confident are you of victory? Xiao Chun thought for a while before saying, 50%. If that is all she has, I can increase it by another 10%. When Lu Suifeng heard this, he was incomparably shocked. He was very clear about Xiao Chun's character. When he said 50%, it would only be higher and not lower. It would definitely not be lower than 50%. The matches in the arena continued. The top 10 core disciples of the Wind Cloud list all went up. Their strength did not disappoint the crowd. The 5th-ranked Li Yuzi used only 3 moves to deal with the 15th-ranked Lian Yun. His speed is abnormally fast. The 4th-ranked Yun Feima defeated the 20th-ranked opponent with 1 saber strike. It looks like his tearing blood technique has already reached the 10th layer. The 8th-ranked Lung Aoshuang also used only 3 moves to deal with his opponent. It was as Zhang Lai said, none of the top 10 core disciples were weak. They were much stronger than the others. They basically dealt with their opponents within 5 moves. Up until now, aside from the 1st-ranked Morong Chong, who had yet to fight, the other 9 core disciples in the top 10 had already fought, displaying their strength. There was one more thing that attracted Xiao Chen's attention. He did not know if it was the Elders' Assembly's arrangement or something else, but the top 10 core disciples did not fight against each other. In Xiao Chen's opinion, the top 10 core disciples had already surpassed the others. It was almost impossible for the others to defeat them. Their opponents were only themselves. It is Morong Chang's turn. His opponent is Yan Qihua, who is ranked 11th on the Wind Cloud list. He was also one of the top 10 core disciples in the previous Wind Cloud list. None of his opponents could last more than 10 moves. Yan Qihua is indeed strong. Unfortunately, he ran into Morong Chong. He will definitely lose. Let's see how many moves he can last. I have not seen Morong Chong make a move for a long time. This is exciting. Last year, Morong Chong only appeared for a while at the end of the year. He rarely returned to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion after that. This is a bladesman who spends all his time cultivating bitterly. If it were not for the Saber Emperor's summon, he would not have returned. Up in the arena, Yan Qihua's expression changed when he heard the discussions around him. He felt upset in his heart. He looked at the blue-clothed Morong Chong standing proudly and said, regardless of what the others say, I only have one purpose standing here. It is not to last a few moves against you but to defeat you. Morong Chong smiled coldly and said, before you speak, consider your own strength first. Both sides bow and stand still. The match begins. Who? Right after the referee spoke, a cool breeze blew in the arena. There was a melodious sound coming from the wind. This was the sound of a saber being drawn. Yan Qihua was startled. He had not expected Morong Chong to ignore his status and make the first move. He felt flustered. Fortunately, Yan Qihua had a good mental state. After a while, he calmed himself and prepared to receive Morong Chong's attack. However, when he looked to the front, he did not see Morong Chong. Yan Qihua quickly looked around. Aside from the cool breeze, there was no one else in the arena. Where is he? This time, Yan Qihua was completely flustered. How could a living person disappear right under his eyes? It was too strange. Don't panic, he cannot possibly leave this arena. Since he made the first move, he will definitely reveal his killing intent. As long as I grasp the direction of the killing intent, I will be able to block his attack. Yan Qihua repeated in his heart. He extended his perception and moved his feet continuously. He did not dare to relax for even a moment. Pussy eye. Suddenly, a long wound appeared on Yan Qihua's chest. Blood spurted out. His eyes were wide open. He had an incredulous expression. How did I get injured? Chi. The cool breeze in the arena suddenly stopped. The air currents in the air froze. Morong Chong's handsome face appeared before Yan Qihua. He revealed a cruel smile. Morong Chong's eyes were filled with a boundless killing intent. Suddenly, he pounced over like a gushing river. Scram! Morong Chong sheathed his saber and kicked Yan Qihua's chest, sending him off the arena. Why can't I feel such a surging killing intent? What's going on? Yan Qihua, who was struggling on the ground, could not figure it out. When the referee saw the situation, he immediately announced, Morong Chong victory. Yan Qihua's pale face recovered his wits. He shouted, "That's impossible. How could I lose? I have not used the trump card that I practiced for a year. Morong Chong, do you dare to receive an attack from me fair and square? Do you dare or not?" Morong Chong did not even look at Yen Chihua, who was on the ground. He said coldly, "Idiot, you have to be able to use a killing move for it to be considered a killing move. You can't even use it, yet you are not embarrassed to shout so loudly." Looking at Morong Chong's back, Xiaochen sank into deep thought. What a horrifying clear wind chop. I originally thought that my great perfection clear wind chop was sufficient as a trump card. It looks like I am still far from it. Chapter 234. Wang Qinian, a direct disciple of the 10,000 Fathoms Peak, frowned when he saw Lin Feng's matches. What is Lin Feng doing? He has lost 9 out of 15 matches. Is he doing this on purpose? Luo Kudi, who was at the side, also felt a little strange when he heard this. In the previous match, he would have easily defeated an opponent ranked in the top 100. Wang Qinian said, "When you go down later, ask him what's going on. Tell him to try his best to get the 90 spots. I have a feeling that this mission will be very helpful to us. After the mission, our strength should increase by a level." The duels in the arena continued. The gap between the top 10 on the wind and cloud list and the people behind them grew larger and larger. They were not on the same level at all. As the sun set in the west, the battles in the arena were nearing the final round. The top 10 on the honor roll had yet to meet. Now, it was certain that this was deliberately arranged by the elders. He just didn't know how they would be ranked if they had the same number of points. As expected, none of the top 10 are mediocre. They are much stronger than I imagined. Zhang Lai sighed after pondering for a while. Seeing that Zhang Lai was still conflicted on this issue, Mu Heng did not say anything more. The strength of the top 10 had indeed surpassed his expectations. However, he still believed that Xiaochen had the strength to fight for the top 10. There was no reason for it. It was just an intuition. Lu Suifeng suddenly said in a low voice, "Have you noticed that Lin Feng, the quick blade of the 10,000 Fathoms Peak, has already lost 10 matches in a row? What is he thinking? Is there such a thing?" Xiaochen really didn't notice, but no matter what he wanted to do, he couldn't do anything. In the past, when Xiaochen fought against him, he might have had to resort to electric tricks to win quickly. However, after consuming the flowing light flower, his comprehension ability increased greatly. His strength was much stronger than when he first came out of the underground world. It was a qualitative leap. Xiaochen said indifferently, "Don't worry about him. If he wants to challenge me, I will give him a pleasant surprise." When the afterglow of the setting sun dyed the entire western sky red, the battles on the drill ground finally came to an end. The top 10 core disciples on the leaderboard had won all 15 battles, and were tied for first place. The result was somewhat regrettable. After all, what everyone wanted to see the most was an evenly matched high-level battle. Under the direction of the chief examiner, Xiao Chun and the other 10 newly promoted inner core disciples slowly walked to the center of the drill ground to welcome the challenges of the last 10 core disciples. Although the level of this battle wasn't high, it was still worth watching. For the sake of maintaining their status as core disciples, those people would use all sorts of methods to fight with all their might. As for Xiao Chen's group of 10, if they were to lose, although they wouldn't lose their qualifications as core disciples, they would lose the rewards they had previously received. The purpose of this was to prevent them from cheating. Such a rule ensured that both sides would have to fight with all their might and not hold anything back. Otherwise, both sides would suffer great losses. That's strange. Why is Lin Feng from the 10,000 Fathoms Peak also up there? He is the second strongest core disciple of the 10,000 Fathoms Peak. Even if he can't get one of the 90 spots, he shouldn't be at the bottom. You can't even understand this? You are too stupid. The 10th ranked core disciple can choose his own opponent. He lost to Yichen previously, so he must be feeling unsatisfied. This time, he is here to get back at him. That is interesting. Lin Feng is also an inferior grade martial saint. His quick saber is quite famous in the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He should be evenly matched with Xiaochen. That should be the case. I heard that Yi Chen used some tricks to win the last battle. That's why Lin Feng is very unconvinced. Otherwise, he wouldn't have voluntarily admitted defeat this time, and dropped his ranking to around 300. The crowd was somewhat surprised at Lin Feng's appearance. However, when they thought about the reasons behind it, they were not too surprised. After all, every cultivator had their own pride. The 10 newly promoted core disciples and the 10 last-ranked core disciples were separated by a few meters, standing in a row facing each other. Lin Feng's hand was on his saber hilt. His black eyes revealed a murderous intent as he stared at Xiao Chen. He withdrew his aura, accumulating it continuously. If looks could kill, Xiao Chen would have died 100 times already. The chief examiner walked to the center and looked at both sides. Then he pointed to the person on the right and said, "If you are defeated this time, you will lose your qualifications to be a core disciple. I hope you will grasp this opportunity and do your best. Now from left to right, choose your opponent one by one." When the first person from the left, Zhang Yu, heard this, he revealed a joyful expression. To be able to choose his opponent first, the advantage was self-evident. The expressions of the three people on the right were much more unsightly. It was easy to imagine that their opponents would be Mu Heng, Zhang Lai and Xiao Chen, who no one was willing to fight. Zhang Yu immediately stepped forward and pointed at Lu Suifeng. "I choose him as my opponent." Lu Suifeng was indeed the weakest of the 10. However, Xiao Chen did not think that Lu Suifeng would definitely lose. His chances of victory were 50-50. Don't hold anything back. The opponent might use his full power the moment he starts, Xiao Chen said in a soft voice as he walked past Lu Suifeng. Lu Suifeng nodded gently. The fact that the other party chose him first made him feel unsightly. Everyone was a hot-blooded person. They were not willing to be looked down upon in front of everyone. Zhang Yu was only a superior grade martial grandmaster. Compared to Lu Suifeng, he did not have much of an advantage in terms of cultivation realm. He was more experienced in combat. Indeed, it was as Xiao Chen said. After Zhang Yu went up, he immediately executed his trump card, wanting to catch Lu Suifeng off guard. Lu Suifeng was prepared for this long ago. He fought back tit for tat, not letting Zhang Yu gain any advantage. The two of them had similar cultivation realms. Neither of them had a clear advantage. In the end, it would be a battle of mental states. The one who could maintain his composure and not reveal any openings too early would be the one to obtain the final victory. After the two of them exchanged 200 moves, there was still no chance of victory. Zhang Yu started to feel anxious. The pressure on him was much greater than Lu Suifeng's. Lu Suifeng's moves became increasingly ferocious. His gaze was calm and his heart was as calm as still water. He withstood Zhang Yu's storm-like attacks and finally found an opening. He immediately executed Qingyan Peak's secret technique, Profound Wind Chop. He knocked his opponent off the arena in one fell swoop, obtaining victory. The chief examiner walked over to Zhang Yu. Under Zhang Yu's unresigned gaze, he removed the golden core disciple identity token from his waist. Next, continue. The duels continued. With Zhang Yu as an example, the remaining core disciples were more cautious. The duels were in a stalemate. Both sides had their wins and losses. "I choose him." When it was Lin Feng's turn to choose his opponent, he immediately picked Xiao Chen after he went up the arena. There were no surprises. Xiao Chen leaped up gently and landed firmly on the arena. When Xiao Chen went up the arena, the rage in Lin Feng's eyes calmed down. He gathered his aura and raised it continuously, holding it back. "If I cannot defeat you within 5 moves, I will admit defeat." Lin Feng said word by word when he saw Xiao Chen's indifferent expression. Xiao Chen found it funny. He said indifferently, "Defeating me in 5 moves gives you a sense of accomplishment? Seeing that you have prepared so much, even dropping to the bottom 10 to fight me, I will give you this opportunity." Duel begin. The moment the referee spoke, Lin Feng's aura, which he had been suppressing, exploded out. The aura of an inferior grade martial saint surged towards Xiao Chen like a torrential flood. Torrential storm. After learning from his previous experience, Lin Feng did not give his opponent the chance to make the first move. After he suppressed his aura, he immediately executed the martial technique that he was proud of. Xiao Chen swung his saber, and a 6-meter-long saber chi flew towards Xiao Chen like a torrential storm. A strong wind blew in the arena. One could faintly hear the sound of a torrential storm. Lin Feng had underestimated this person. He had already comprehended the state of wind, and the state of rain in this saber strike to small perfection. The horrifying saber chi had the speed of the wind and the density of the rain. The wind and rain intertwined, and the torrential rain poured down. The rain made use of the wind to become even more ferocious. The berserk saber chi did not give Xiao Chen any time to think. It arrived before him in an instant. Before the saber chi got close, the ferocious saber wind caused Xiao Chen's clothes and hair to flutter. When it landed on his face, he felt a slight pain. Dang! Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. He drew the snow-white lunar shadow saber and released a surging saber light, shattering the first saber chi. Saber chi was the biggest difference between a martial saint and a martial grandmaster. A martial grandmaster could only condense saber light. However, a martial saint could condense saber light again and launch a long-distance attack. In terms of essence quality and quantity, there was not much of a difference between Xiao Chen and Lin Feng. In fact, the quality of Xiao Chen's essence might even be slightly stronger. However, there was a difference between saber light and saber chi. When his opponent condensed saber chi with 50% of his strength, Xiao Chen needed to condense 60% of his strength to block it. However, Xiao Chen's essence recovery speed was much faster than his opponent's. Thus, he did not care about the consumption of essence. He smiled gently and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. Xiao Chen's figure flickered on the arena, leaving behind a series of afterimages. It was hard to tell which was the real one and which was the fake one. In the arena, strands of saber chi were shattered by Xiao Chen, scattering in all directions. Although Lin Feng knew that this move would not be able to cause any substantial damage to Xiao Chen, he did not expect that Xiao Chen would break it so easily. Swallowing wind drinking rain. Lin Feng shouted and the torrential rain and wind suddenly stopped. The remaining saber chi returned to Lin Feng's body with a schwa sound. Xiao Chen appeared and looked at Lin Feng leaping over. He said softly, "For more moves." "Less nonsense, I will deal with you with this move," Lin Feng said ruthlessly, veins bulging on his face. The moment Lin Feng spoke, his saber had already landed on Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. The chi whirlpool in his dantian spun rapidly. 6 drops of pure essence liquid were extracted and instantly turned into surging essence. They flowed into the meridians in his arms and into the saber. Chapter 235. The snow-white lunar shadow saber gave off a bright light, forming a resplendent saber light. Boom! The instant the sabers clashed, an intense whirlwind appeared with Ling Feng's saber as the center. The torrential storm that was swallowed by the whirlwind earlier gushed out with an even more ferocious aura. Dida! Dida! The sound of torrential rain started to resound in Xiao Chen's ears. With every drop of rain, the energy contained in Lin Feng's saber became stronger. Eventually, the sound of the rain became louder and louder. Dark clouds covered the sky, and it actually started to rain heavily. The energy in Ling Feng's saber had also reached a horrifying level. Xiao Chen had some difficulty blocking the energy in the saber, and he could not help but move back. The torrential rain quickly soaked Xiao Chen's clothes and hair. Lin Feng revealed a cocky expression. "You are very honored. You are the first opponent of my torrential storm saber technique, since I mastered it to great perfection. For you, I even gave up on the 90 spots. The might of this swallowing wind drinking rain can grow infinitely. The longer you resist, the more pressure you will have to endure. In the end, your injuries will only worsen. I advise you to admit defeat as soon as possible." In the midst of the torrential storm, Xiao Chen slowly moved back. However, his expression did not change. When he heard Lin Feng's words, he revealed a faint smile. "Infinitely grow. Like I said, I will give you 5 moves. I will not attack you with this move. Unless it was a great perfection mysterious phenomenon, no one would dare to say that their strength could grow infinitely. Furthermore, even a great perfection mysterious phenomenon could be broken by force. To be able to draw out such a realistic mysterious phenomenon, Lin Feng's move was indeed shocking. However, in Xiao Chen's eyes it was full of openings. It would be easy for him to break it. However, Xiao Chen did not intend to do so. He placed his left hand on the saber hilt and switched to a two-handed grip. He immediately stopped moving back and shouted, "Solitary peak appreciating self." The image of a 1,000-meter-tall mountain flashed behind Xiao Chen. Clouds surrounded the peak, and it pierced through the dark clouds in the sky. Then it entered Xiao Chen's body. Bang! The instant the mountain entered Xiao Chen's body, a majestic aura spread out from within. Xiao Chen stood upright on the arena like a towering mountain. "Let the wind howl. Let the rain pour down. I will not move. Who cares about your unlimited growth? I will not be afraid. I will admire myself on the lonely peak." This move was the strongest defensive move of the Lingyun saber technique. Once he used it, Lin Feng felt a huge pressure. No matter how much strength he used, he could not move Xiao Chen at all. In his eyes, it was as if his saber had really struck a majestic mountain peak, and it had no effect at all. Retreat. Lin Feng sheathed his saber and quickly retreated. The mysterious phenomenon in the sky immediately disappeared. Swallowing wind drinking rain could indeed grow infinitely, but it also required sufficient essence to support it. Covering the entire arena with the mysterious phenomenon was already Lin Feng's limit. If he persisted for a long time, even without Xiao Chen making a move, he would automatically lose due to his essence being exhausted. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and dispersed the aura of the lonely peak. He looked at the retreating Lin Feng and said, "3 more moves. Let's see what other abilities you have." When Lin Feng saw that Xiao Chen had a card up his sleeve, he roared angrily. The qi and blood in his heart surged. He did not use any martial techniques and directly rushed over. So. Lin Feng did not use any martial techniques. Instead, his speed became even faster. A strand of saber qi flashed in front of Xiao Chen at lightning speed, making him somewhat surprised. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen's body moved back, and 2 strands of hair on his forehead were cut off. He narrowly avoided this saber strike. 2 more moves. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and retreated more than 100 meters, putting a distance between him and Lin Feng. Xiao Chen's words were like a nightmare that haunted Lin Feng, causing him to feel extremely frustrated. He was at a loss as to what to do. He was in a state of confusion, and did not know how to make his move. When Wang Qinian, who was on 10,000 fathoms peak, saw Lin Feng on the arena, he revealed an extremely disappointed expression. He said to Luo Kudi, who was beside him, "Let's go, I don't want to watch anymore." Luo Kudi also secretly shook his head. He followed behind Wang Qinian and slowly left the pavilion. The result was already decided. There was indeed nothing to see. 5 moves are over. "You can go down now," Xiao Chen said softly as he dodged Lin Feng's saber qi again. Lin Feng smiled coldly. "Don't speak as if you can defeat me at any time. This is just an excuse for you to be suppressed by me." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not argue. He used the high-level technique of the Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Incantation, the Cloud Dragon's 9 transformations. On the arena, 9 illusory figures appeared. Huqi. The 9 illusory figures moved at the same time, turning into 9 cool breezes that blew towards Lin Feng from all directions. The cool breezes were gentle, bringing with them a refreshing feeling. Not only did Lin Feng not feel any killing qi or pressure, he even felt comfortable. When he felt that something was wrong, he suddenly felt pain in the 9 acupoints on his chest. In the next moment, blood spurted out like a fountain. The 9 figures merged back together, and the lunar shadow saber returned to its scabbard. Xiao Chen stood behind Lin Feng and said indifferently, "Sorry, I can indeed defeat you at any time, be it in the past or now." "Putong!" Lin Feng immediately knelt on the ground and muttered, "Clear wind chop," only seeing the cool breeze and not the saber. Qingyan Peak's 7 great secret techniques. Actually, I should have thought of this long ago. The referee removed Lin Feng's identity medallion and waved his hand. Immediately, someone carried Lin Feng off the arena and treated his injuries. The huge crowd did not make a sound when they saw this scene. Although they knew that Lin Feng might not be a match for Xiao Chen, they did not expect Xiao Chen to be able to toy with Lin Feng in the palm of his hand. He only used one saber strike to defeat the second-ranked core disciple of Wanren Peak. His strength was equivalent to the top 10 core disciples on the Wind Cloud list. Thinking about how Xiaochen was currently only a peak martial grandmaster, if he advanced to martial saint one day, he would definitely be able to enter the top 10 of the Wind Cloud list. Mu Heng stood beside Zhang Lai and said softly, "Do you still think that Yi Chen does not have the strength to fight for the top 10? Zhang Lai revealed a bitter smile. He discovered that he could not see through Yi Chen anymore. It seemed like he had an endless supply of trump cards. Previously, it was the 17th move of the Lingyun Saber technique. This time it was Qingyun Peak's secret technique. I take back what I said earlier. He does indeed have the strength to fight for the top 10 of the Wind Cloud list. However, I will personally defeat him in the true battle for points at the end of the year." Mu Heng smiled faintly and did not say anything. He felt that Zhang Lai was too naive. In this world, there were some people who would only leave you further and further behind after they surpassed you. No matter how hard you worked, you would not even be able to see their backs in the end. In Mu Heng's opinion, Xiaochen was such a person. He was neither arrogant nor rash. He did not reveal himself. However, once he revealed himself, he would be able to shake the heavens and shock everyone. At the highest point of the pavilion, the top 10 core disciples of the Wind Cloud list each stood in their own position. Morong Chang's calm expression could not help but change slightly when he saw Xiaochen execute the clear wind chop. He looked at Lu Ruyue in the distance and muttered, "Clear wind chop. Ruyue, have you not given up yet? No matter what, I will let you know that aside from me, no one can help you revitalize Qingyun Peak." After Mu Heng and Zhang Lai easily defeated their opponents, this duel finally came to an end. Including Lin Feng, 7 people had lost their qualifications to become core disciples forever. The chief examiner looked at the crowd and said, "Let's disperse first. Mu Heng, Yi Chen and Zhang Lai, the 3 of you stay behind." After the crowd dispersed, the chief examiner said, "According to the higher-ups, the 3 of you have the qualifications to participate in this mission. Don't ask me what the mission is, you will know after 3 days. What you need to do is to work hard on your cultivation within these 3 days, and strive to improve further." The 3 of them exchanged glances. They could see a trace of surprise in each other's eyes. The moon hung high in the sky like a round plate, quietly emitting a tranquil light. The light scattered around every inch of Qingyun Peak. In the independent courtyard that Xiaochen was in, Xiaochen sat cross-legged on the bed. It is time to break through to the 4th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Xiaochen thought to himself. There were still 3 days. He had to strive to improve his cultivation and cultivation technique. The qi whirlpool in his body spun very quickly. The essence flowed slowly along his meridians, following the circulation route of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. The surrounding lightning-attributed spiritual energy quickly gathered in Xiaochen's body. As the spiritual energy poured in continuously, the essence in Xiaochen's meridians slowly turned from a transparent color to a crystalline purple. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation had 3 thresholds. Every 3 layers would result in a qualitative change. The first 3 layers were the foundation of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Only by reaching the 4th layer could one be considered to have barely reached the next level. When one reached the 4th layer, not only would one be able to cultivate higher-ranked immortal techniques, but the Purple Thunder True Fire origin would also improve. The most important thing was that the essence in one's body would produce a trace of lightning energy. In the future, every move one made would produce a strong lightning-attributed electricity. Cultivating lightning-attributed martial techniques would also allow him to achieve twice the results with half the effort. The rushing Thunder Saber technique that lacked an opportunity might be able to advance because of this, allowing him to practice the final move of the rushing Thunder Saber technique, the rushing Thunder Triple Chop. Thus, breaking through from the 3rd layer to the 4th layer was more difficult than breaking through from the 3rd layer. Fortunately, Xiaochen had made ample preparations for this. Be it the 20 auspicious signs in the underground world, or the immortal grade flowing light marigold, they all made it much easier for him to break through to the 4th layer. Time slowly went by. After an hour, the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation in Xiaochen's body finally completed a great cycle. The crystalline and crystalline purple essence slowly returned to the qi whirlpool. Xiaochen sank his consciousness into it, and saw a tiny purple electric light at the bottom of the spiraling qi whirlpool. Although the electric light was small, the energy it contained made Xiaochen slightly startled. After a while, the electric light condensed into a drop of purple liquid and slowly dripped down. When I condense 361 purple electric lights, this purple thunder divine incantation should be able to reach the 4th layer, Xiaochen thought to himself. Chapter 236. Xiaochen sank his consciousness and cleared his mind. He continued to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation unhurriedly. The speed at which the surrounding lightning-attributed spiritual energy poured in also increased. Z. Xiaochen's room was filled with electricity. Occasionally, electricity could be seen in the air, crackling as it flickered. Then it vanished into nothing. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated for another great cycle. This time, the purple electricity in the qi whirlpool condensed into 2 drops of purple liquid. The instant the liquid fell, Xiaochen felt that every inch of his body was filled with a boundless energy. It made his mind surge and his qi and blood surge endlessly. As time went by, the speed at which the purple thunder divine incantation circulated was no longer under Xiaochen's control. It circulated at a frightening speed. The electricity in the qi whirlpool crackled endlessly. Dida, dida, dida. The purple liquid fell quickly. Xiaochen still managed to condense 100 drops of crystalline and translucent purple liquid. Xiaochen's hair and skin started to glow with a purple light. This was especially so for his hair. His originally black hair was now crystalline and translucent, giving off a strange glow. The gentle moonlight shone through the window screens, giving Xiaochen a faint yellow glow. The purple and yellow colors mixed together, forming an enchanting glow. When the purple thunder divine incantation circulated for 200 great cycles, the lightning-attributed spiritual energy in the entire courtyard could no longer satisfy Xiaochen's needs. The range of the spiritual energy slowly expanded. In the end, all the lightning-attributed spiritual energy in the entire Qingyun Peak surged towards Xiaochen's room. The spiritual energy in the Lingyun mountain range was many times denser than that of the ground. The lightning-attributed spiritual energy in the entire peak was comparable to the spiritual energy in a medium-sized city on the surface. Suddenly, the surging lightning-attributed spiritual energy formed a huge whirlpool on the roof of Xiaochen's room. This whirlpool was connected to the qi whirlpool in his body. Every time the cyclone in Xiaochen's dantian rotated once, a large amount of surging and powerful lightning-attributed spiritual energy would enter Xiaochen's body. Within the whirlpool, thunder and lightning roared. From time to time, lightning streaked across the night sky, illuminating the entire mountaintop. The huge commotion immediately startled everyone on Qingyun Peak. The Divine Saber Camp's bladesmen guarding the library revealed grave expressions. The leader did not know what was going on, and wanted to send someone to check it out. Don't be anxious. Someone's cultivation technique is advancing. There is no need to be too shocked. Lu Qing walked out of the library and stopped the people from the Divine Saber Camp. Xiaochen looked at the huge lightning whirlpool in the distance at the bottom of the mountain. Occasionally, the horrifying lightning within the whirlpool tore through the sky, tearing apart the night sky. The grave expression on Lu Qing's face was no less than that of the Divine Saber Camp's bladesmen. He thought to himself, such a horrifying mysterious phenomenon. Could it be that a heaven-ranked cultivation technique is about to advance? In Xiaochen's independent courtyard, Lu Ruyue and Lu Suifeng stood outside. Their faces were filled with astonishment as well. The two of them were less than 500 meters away from the whirlpool. They could clearly feel the horrifying might within it. The thunder was like a flood dragon roaring angrily. The lightning was like a tongue of fire spitting out. All that was left in the air was pure lightning-attributed spiritual energy. All the other attributed spiritual energy had been cleanly expelled. Everywhere was crackling lightning. Under the illumination of the electricity, it was as dazzling as a solar eclipse. Lu Suifeng squinted his eyes and said worriedly, "Sis, will Yichen be fine?" "Jinx. Lu Riyue knocked Lu Suifeng's forehead violently. She said, I have only seen such a phenomenon in ancient books. It is a strong cultivation technique advancing. Yichen has always been cautious. If he is not completely prepared, he will not advance rashly. Although Lu Riyue said that, the anxiety in her eyes did not lessen at all. It was also written in the ancient books that if a cultivator failed to advance, their cultivation technique would flow in reverse. Their meridians would break, and they would die. Suddenly, the whirlpool in the sky turned into countless tiny bolts of lightning. They entered Xiao Chen's room. Immediately, the mysterious phenomenon in the sky disappeared, and everything became calm. Boom! After a moment of silence, a huge force exploded in Xiao Chen's room. The room suddenly collapsed, kicking up a large cloud of dust. Xiao Chen's figure leaped out from the cloud of dust. A purple light flashed in his eyes, disappearing in an instant. It was like two beams of purple light suddenly disappearing in the dark night. It was as resplendent as a pillar, soul-stirring. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen. He discovered that he could no longer see through Xiao Chen. In the past, he could still guess his cultivation realm. Now he only had one feeling, unfathomable. Xiao Chen had noticed the two of them long ago. He smiled faintly and pushed off the ground with his feet, landing beside the two of them. He left behind a purple afterimage in the air. After a long time, it slowly thinned until it disappeared. The anxiety in Lu Riyue's eyes vanished. Her pretty face revealed a joyful expression. Congratulations on crossing the first great hurdle of a cultivator and successfully advancing to martial saint. This was not the first time that Xiao Chen advanced his purple thunder divine incantation and cultivation realm at the same time. It was the same when he advanced to martial grandmaster. Thus he did not find it strange, he just treated it as a pleasant surprise. Xiao Chen smiled. This is all thanks to the dense spiritual energy in Qingyan Peak. Otherwise, I would have needed at least a month to advance. These words were not exaggerated at all. The spirit vein's origin under the Lingyun mountain range could very well be the core spirit vein's origin of the entire Shihe province. If Xiao Chen advanced at some other place, the overly thin spiritual energy would not allow him to advance so smoothly. When Lu Riyue saw Xiao Chen being so humble, her impression of him improved greatly. She smiled and said, I shall not disturb you anymore. Your cultivation technique and cultivation realm have both advanced. You should now carefully comprehend them. If there is anything you do not understand, you can come and ask me. I will find someone to fix this room tomorrow. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen. He felt somewhat bitter in his heart. When Xiao Chen first came to Qingyan Peak, he was only an inferior grade martial grandmaster. His cultivation was not even as high as his. However, in less than half a year, Xiao Chen had crossed 2 hurdles in one go. Then, he crossed the first great hurdle in front of cultivators, and entered the martial saint realm. With such talent, he could be ranked in the top 10 among the young disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lu Suifeng thought about himself. A year ago, he was already a peak martial grandmaster. However, he could not touch the door to martial saint. It was only after he consumed the flowing light flower that he managed to comprehend it. However, Lu Suifeng had a calm temperament. The fact that Xiao Chen was able to advance to martial saint only gave him some pressure. He smiled gently and said, Do you admit it or not? Now, I can no longer catch up to you. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. Lu Suifeng's talent was not low. Unfortunately, his temperament was not resolute enough. If he could get rid of these distracting thoughts, his cultivation would improve significantly. After the two of them left, Xiao Chen started to inspect the condition of his body. He sank his consciousness into it. The formless qi whirlpool in his dantian had turned completely purple. With a thought, a strand of purple essence immediately came out from the purple qi whirlpool. It flowed through his meridians and entered Xiao Chen's right hand. Shua! Without any obstruction, the purple energy left Xiao Chen's body and formed a small saber qi in the air as it flew forward. A small tree about 10 meters in front of Xiao Chen was easily chopped in half at the waist. There were traces of electricity leaping around the gap in the small tree, lingering for a long time. Xiao Chen revealed a complicated expression. He said, The essence in my body has already turned into pure lightning-attributed essence. In the future, if I were to learn lightning-attributed martial techniques, I would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. However, if the attribute was too pure, there would be some obstruction to the comprehension of other martial techniques. For example, the Lingyun saber technique that Xiaochen was currently researching. The Lingyun saber technique did not have any requirements on the attribute. However, in terms of states, it was the state of mountains and the state of clouds. If Xiaochen wanted to comprehend it further, he would have to overcome the instinctive state of thunder in his body. It would be much more difficult for him to comprehend it compared to others. Xiaochen collected his thoughts and said, "Never mind, let's not care about this for now. I should take a look at the progress of the purple thunder true fire first." With a thought, a fierce flame started burning in his right eye. Xiaochen shouted, "Withdraw!" The purple flame immediately gushed out like a waterfall. Xiaochen opened his right hand and a ball-sized flame immediately floated in his hand. In the center of the flame, there was a strand of dazzling electricity leaping around. It gave the purple flame a strange hue. The dazzling electricity was the origin flame of the purple thunder true fire. The purple thunder divine incantation had advanced to the 4th layer. Xiaochen could finally successfully draw out the origin flame. In the Tianmu continent, flames were also divided into different attributes. There was the extreme cold flame, which could instantly freeze the target into a pillar of ice, shattering it into countless ice shards. There was also the nurturing flame, which could treat injuries and expel the cold. It nourished the body and had the effect of bringing the dead back to life. There was also the ghost flame, which had a corrosive effect. No matter how strong the opponent's defense was, it could easily corrode them. There was also the incomparably tyrannical dragon flame, which was indestructible and unblockable. There were all sorts of flames, and it was not as simple as burning. As for Xiaochen's purple thunder true fire, it was a lightning-attributed flame. Its origin flame was a strand of lightning soul. The flame contained boundless electricity. "Shoot!" Xiaochen shouted, and the purple flame in his hand transformed into a sharp arrow, shooting into the pitch-black night sky. The purple arrow had a long, flaming tail behind it. It cut the night sky in half like a piece of black cloth. In an instant, it flew for more than a kilometer. Its speed surpassed the speed of sound. It was unknown how far it flew. In the night sky, only a spot of light could be seen moving continuously like a meteor. After a long time, the distant night sky suddenly gave off a resplendent light. It illuminated the night sky like it was daytime. However, countless bolts of electricity tore the sky apart. Hualala! The instant the arrow exploded, Xiaochen clearly felt the essence in his body drain away like water. Xiaochen looked at the sky, at the direction the purple arrow flew in. He was somewhat astonished as he said, "What a fast speed! With such a sudden attack, no one would be able to block it." However, this was not the time to be concerned about this. Xiaochen leaped up gently and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His figure instantly disappeared from the courtyard, heading for a desolate forest in the back mountains of Qingyan Peak. Xiaochen scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense. After he verified that there was no one around, Xiaochen took out the broken sword he obtained in the ancient remnant from the universe ring. Chapter 237. This broken sword was the same as the Thunder King's Thunderwood sword. Aside from its sharpness, there was nothing special about it. However, when it was placed next to the Lunar Shadow Saber, there would be an intense reaction. They were attracted to each other. Xiaochen had wanted to burn it for a long time. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, the purple thunder true fire that could burn the Thunderwood sword could not do anything to this broken sword. Coincidentally, the purple thunder true fire's grade had increased again. Xiaochen was prepared to give it another try. He wanted to see what reaction there would be after he burned it. Summoning the purple thunder true fire, Xiaochen gently placed the broken sword in his hand in the middle of the flames. His spiritual sense wrapped around the broken sword as it floated steadily in the middle of the flames. Pusi. The moment the flames touched the broken sword, it immediately gave off a dazzling electric light, crackling non-stop. Black smoke came out from the surface of the broken sword. The entire broken sword changed its appearance. The dust on its surface was removed, and it gave off a bright light once again. Wang. Wang. The lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's left hand could not help but tremble. The trembling became stronger and stronger. In the end, Xiao Chen almost could not hold it anymore. Could this broken sword really contain a portion of the battle sage origin? Xiao Chen thought to himself. The battle sage origin was the strongest offensive qi in the world. Because it was too strong, it was split into 6 portions. Each portion was embedded in a subdivine weapon. Back then, the Thunder King spent the latter half of his life searching for the remaining 5 portions of the battle sage origin. No one knew how many portions he found, and what the final result was. No one knew who was it that injured the Thunder King and broke the Thunderwood sword in his hand, forcing him to seal the broken sword in the Moonlight Stone for 1,000 years. Later generations did not know. Back then, the Thunder King was a peerless genius. With the Thunderwood sword in his hand, he was unrivaled in the entire Great Qin nation. He was a peak expert in the entire Tianwu continent. There were not many people who could force him to use his full strength, who could force him to a dead end. Aside from Ao Jiao, no one knew the answer. However, Ao Jiao did not answer this question. She had been avoiding the topic, not telling Xiao Chen the answer. Clearly, she was extremely wary of the matter of 1,000 years ago. Xiao Chen had a guess about this. The Thunder King might have already found the other 5 subdivine weapons containing the battle sage origin. However, just as he was about to fuse the divine weapons, he was severely injured by someone. His 5 subdivine weapons were separated, and the Thunderwood sword in his hand was chopped into 2. Why was he so afraid of the Thunderwood sword that was about to become a divine weapon? The answer was obvious. It had to be the owner of a divine weapons master. From the day the divine weapons were born, there were only 10 divine weapons in the world. It was as if even the heavens were afraid of the divine weapons. King from the sage, the thunder dragon, sword from the wood, from dragon, from sword, wood, from wood. The owner of a divine weapon was afraid that his divine weapon would fall. Hence he chose to make a move early. He used the might of the divine weapon to defeat the Thunder King, Sang Mu. Xiao Chen's guess was very reasonable. However, he did not have any evidence. Hence, Xiao Chen did not dare to be too sure that the events of the past were as he expected. The purple thunder true fire that released its origin energy was several times hotter than before. It reached a horrifying temperature of more than 5,000 degrees Celsius. Under Xiao Chen's fervent gaze, that broken sword slowly melted. It turned into liquid and slowly dripped down. Wuxia. The instant the liquid fell, it floated to the lunar shadow saber scabbard in Xiao Chen's left hand. It seemed like it had a life of its own as it flowed towards the gap between the scabbard and the hilt. It wanted to enter the scabbard and merge with the saber. Pooh! The simple and unadorned scabbard gave off a horrifying force, knocking away all the liquid flying over. Xiao Chen sent out a strand of his spiritual sense, and gathered all the molten metal in the air. He frowned, not understanding what was going on. What is going on? When that broken sword completely melted, all the molten metal gathered together, and moved around continuously. It was like jelly on earth. It was very strange. Suddenly, a black figure flew out from the gathered molten metal, heading for Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen was prepared for this long ago. He instantly used his spiritual sense to form a thick wall in front of him. It was impregnable. When the figure crashed into it, it bounced back. Ayo! Ayo! The figure let out a pained cry. Xiao Chen finally saw what it looked like. It looked exactly like a human. There was no difference at all. However, it was clearly much weaker. It gave off an extremely sinister aura, making others feel disgusted. So it is the item spirit of the subdivine weapon. Because the broken sword did not receive proper maintenance, it has turned into an evil spirit. Now that Xiao Chen knew what it was, he was no longer surprised. No wonder the scabbard was disgusted by these things and merged with the lunar shadow saber. So this was the reason. After the item spirit turned into an evil spirit, it would lose its consciousness. It would become a monster that only knew how to kill. If it was merged into a spirit weapon, It would turn the spirit weapon into an evil weapon, bringing disaster to the world. In the Tianmu continent, there were many evil cultivators who collected these evil spirits to refine evil weapons and use them to increase their strength. If this evil spirit, which was once the item spirit of a subdivine weapon, completely occupied the lunar shadow saber, it would immediately turn into an extremely evil weapon. Even Xiaochen would be affected. However, this evil spirit had been tempered by the purple thunder true fire, so its strength was significantly weaker. It could not pierce through the wall that Xiaochen laid down. Instead, it even injured itself. The evil spirit seemed to know how powerful Xiaochen was. It roared and immediately flew into the distance, trying to escape this place. Trying to run? Can you run? Purple thunder true fire. Shoot. When Xiaochen saw that the evil spirit was trying to escape, he smiled faintly. The purple thunder true fire turned into a sharp arrow and shot out with a long flaming tail. It was like a resplendent bolt of lightning. It surpassed the speed of sound and instantly caught up to the black evil spirit, piercing through it. Boom! The purple flame exploded. The might of the origin energy was completely unleashed. The brilliant electric light lit up the forest like it was daytime. The black evil spirit cried out in grief and turned into nothing, completely disappearing from this world. When Xiaochen felt his essence flowing out like water, he sighed and said, "I only used it twice and my essence is already mostly depleted. Looks like this move can only be used as a trump card." After the evil spirit died, the broken sword turned into molten metal and flew back to the lunar shadow saber. This time, the strange scabbard did not stop it. It released the lunar shadow saber that wanted to escape. The snow-white blade of the lunar shadow saber trembled in the air. It was like the molten metal had melted into his skin. There were no ripples as it completely seeped in. When the last drop of molten metal completely seeped in, the snow-white blade of the lunar shadow saber became even more dazzling. Xiaochen stretched his hand out and grasped the lunar shadow saber. He immediately felt the energy in the saber become stronger. The lunar shadow saber advanced from inferior grade earth rank to medial grade earth ranked. Unfortunately, he did not see the so-called battle sage origins. Xiaochen was slightly disappointed. Since there is no battle sage origins, why did Ao Jiao tell me to refine this broken sword in such a hurry? If there was a problem that he could not figure out, he would put it aside for now. This was Xiaochen's usual way of doing things. He would not waste time on it. When the time came, he would straighten things out. It was already very late. After advancing to Martial Saint, he had improved in other areas. It was not convenient for Xiaochen to check them one by one. There were still 3 days. It was sufficient for him to stabilize his cultivation. 3 days passed in a flash. During these 3 days, Xiaochen stabilized his cultivation. If there was anything he did not understand, he would ask Lu Ruyue for guidance. Lu Ruyue had been a martial saint for much longer than Xiaochen. Hence, she had a lot of experience in this area. She imparted it to Xiaochen without holding anything back. For example, the speed at which saber chi could be condensed faster. How to use the least amount of essence to maximize the lethality. Xiaochen's comprehension ability was high in the first place. After consuming the flowing light flower, his comprehension ability became even higher. He was able to understand Lu Ruyue's explanation after hearing it once. He could even deduce many things from one example. Xiaochen had benefited greatly in many aspects. His strength had increased significantly. It was night. There were no clouds in the sky for thousands of kilometers. He could clearly see the countless stars dotting the night sky. With one glance, the night scene was extraordinarily beautiful. Tomorrow was the day the missions would be issued. Xiaochen did not intend to cultivate tonight. He intended to have a good sleep to replenish his mental energy. For cultivators, the effects of meditating was comparable to sleeping. Hence, many cultivators would use cultivation to replace sleep. Doing so would not affect their mental energy. However, they would not be able to relax their minds. After all, when cultivating, the mind would still be awake. If there was even the slightest movement, one would be able to feel it immediately. Hence, only by sleeping could one truly relax their entire body. This would allow the cultivator's mental energy to recover to its peak state. Lying on the bed, Xiaochen closed his eyes and cleared his mind of distracting thoughts. After 10 minutes, his breathing stabilized. His chest rose and fell as he breathed, and he slowly entered dreamland. In a daze, Xiaochen did not know how much time had passed. Suddenly he opened his eyes. However, what he saw was not the room he was familiar with. Clouds surrounded him, and the sun shone brightly above him. When he looked around, many people and houses appeared before him like ants. This was one of the peaks of the Lingyun mountain range. Is this in my dream? Xiaochen thought hazily. This was because time and space did not match his perception. The most important thing was that he could not get rid of that haziness. When Xiaochen turned his head back, he saw the previous peak master of Qingyan Peak, Lu Riyue's father Lu Tianyu, sitting cross-legged on a rock. Lu Tianyu's weathered, wrinkled face was calm as he looked at Xiaochen quietly. You do not seem to find this strange. Xiaochen had already guessed that this person had invaded his dream. He did not find it strange. After all, there was someone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion with such strong mental energy that could easily break through his defenses. Aside from him, Xiaochen could not think of anyone else. He said indifferently, "There is nothing strange about it. It is just that I am not used to people invading my dreams for no reason. Sorry." Right after Xiaochen spoke, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. In an instant, the winds and clouds changed. The entire space was like glass shattering. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.